Chapter 1901. Chen Zhao stood up and glanced at Nala. Miss, it's not suitable for you to appear here. What exactly do you want? Nala, I told you not to appear here today. Don't you understand? Count. Now. Leave this place, Nagran Vargas scolded. Nala had no idea what was going on here. Chen Zhao walked up to Ruan, and the other two, who heard excitedly. The three all lowered their heads. In the end, Ruan was the one who said, I don't know. Anyway, it was that guy. Nagran Vargas's face was cold. He didn't retort. He couldn't stay out of this anymore. Chen Zhao turned to look at Nagran Vargas. The next moment, Chen Zhao suddenly appeared before Nagran Vargas. Before Nagran Vargas could react, Chen Zhao had already grabbed his neck. His entire body was lifted into the air. Nagran Vargas couldn't fight back at all before Chen Zhao. Bang! Chen Zhao pinched a golden bullet between his fingers. President, it's him. When Ruan saw the golden bullet between Chen Zhao's fingers, he immediately locked onto Li Peilua Weeder. Put our father down. All of Nagran Vargas's family members charged at Chen Zhao with a furious roar. Chen Zhao swung his fist, and a dozen family members along the way were instantly turned into ashes. No! Nagran Vargas roared. Nagran Vargas suddenly turned into a puddle of blood and escaped from Chen Zhao's hand. Chen Zhao glanced at Nagran Vargas, who'd returned to his original form. By now, Nala was already dumbfounded. What exactly was going on? Hand over the murderer, Ruan Faxburn said. Ruan knew that after Chen Zhao arrived, things wouldn't end peacefully. He spoke up now, hoping to give Nagran Vargas a way out. Do you think you can make me yield like this? Nagran Vargas's attitude was uncharacteristically resolute. Nagran Vargas suddenly reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Then he tore his left shoulder off with force. Fresh blood gushed out from the wound and gathered into a puddle on the ground. The blood seemed to have a life of its own as it flowed on the ground and seeped into the ground. Then the ground shook heavily. Guild leader, there seems to be something down there. I know, I feel it. If Ruan Faxi could feel it, how could Chen Zhao not? At this moment, the ground began to collapse. First, it was the stones and bricks that were originally laid on the ground, and then the buildings on top of them. Everyone kept retreating, and the ground collapsed more and more, almost covering half of the castle. The pit was bottomless like a bottomless abyss. At this moment, a terrifying suction force suddenly came from the bottomless abyss. Everyone began to be uncontrollably sucked into the bottomless abyss. Even Nagran Vargas, the instigator, could not resist this attraction. Only Chen Zhao stood where he was without moving, watching them get sucked into the bottomless abyss one by one. President. Ruan Faxi originally wanted to ask Chen Zhao for help. In the end, Chen Zhao ignored him. He just stood there and watched the three of them get sucked down. He immediately understood that Chen Zhao was angry at the three of them. Only when everyone was sucked into the bottomless abyss did Chen Zhao jump in. There was a deep pool at the bottom of the abyss. It was about a few hundred meters from the ground. The suction force lasted for a few seconds, and then it turned into an upward current. It was as if something was breathing down there, moving up and down continuously. Nagran Vargas had grabbed Nala Iyer, which was why she'd been able to survive when she fell into the pool. Of course, it was also fortunate that there were intermittent upward currents. Only then did the falling slow down. Nagran Vargas picked up the drowning Nala L and turned to look in another direction. He saw Ruan Faxi Lisa, and more crazily swimming to the shore. Hurry to the shore. Nagran Vargas had a bad feeling. There were many holes around the abyss. The airflow was flowing through these holes. At that moment, the pool suddenly exploded, and a huge snake had drilled out of the pool. The snake's body above the water was dozens of meters long. Its head was as big as a plane's. The moment the bloody mouth broke the surface of the water, more than a dozen members of the clan were swallowed into its mouth. Nala Iyer had never seen something like this before. Even the others hadn't seen it before. And Nagran Vargas knew what was down there. But it was also his first time seeing this snake. Whoosh! Suddenly, a beam of light pierced down from above. The beam of light passed through the serpent's mouth, and then the serpent, along with its huge body, exploded. The broken parts of the snake's body sank into the deep pool. Everyone was shocked. They stared at Chen Zhao, who was floating above the pool in disbelief. Just then, snake heads started burrowing out of the surrounding caves. Every head was the same as the one Chen Zhao had killed earlier. There were at least 100 of them. They all opened their bloody mouths and hissed at Chen Zhao. 100-headed snake? All the heads of the snakes stared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at them from afar. Chen Zhao didn't expect such a monster to be hiding here. Neither side immediately launched an attack. They were evaluating each other's strength. From this, it could be seen that the snake wasn't a mindless monster. Once it thought it could defeat Chen Zhao, it would attack immediately. The snake was very strong, but Chen Zhao could handle it in his normal state. Nagran Vagris stared at both sides. He was the only one who knew the snake's background. He became a vampire largely because of the 100-headed serpent. When he undid the seal on the 100-headed serpent, he had the thought that everyone would die together. But after releasing it, he regretted it. He felt that he'd been too rash. Finally, the 100-headed snake attacked Chen Zhao. Plop! A huge snake head was chopped off and fell into the pool. When the head landed, it immediately created a huge wave. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This man could actually chop off a snake's head in an instant against such a monster? Nagran Vagris was even more shocked. Where did this man come from? Chapter 1902. Nagran Vagris knew the origin of the 100-headed serpent. The 100-headed serpent had once wreaked havoc in England before the first year of the Common Era. At that time, England had been called the Island of Monsters. No one in Europe dared to cross the English Channel, much less land in England. Legend had it that giants and monsters lived there. It was even used as a place of exile for Europe. The French used it as a place of exile for criminals. However, most criminals couldn't even cross the English Channel and ended up in fish stomachs. It wasn't until explorers truly landed there that they realized that the people living there were indeed savages. The deeper they explored, the more they realized how terrifying this place was. However, no matter how terrifying a place was, it couldn't stop humans' desires. More and more humans occupied the Island of Monsters. The 100-headed serpent was the king of monsters. It breathed fog and covered a large area, protecting its people. At the same time, it saw humans as food. The war between humans and monsters finally unfolded. The result was obvious. Humans won. The 100-headed serpent led its monster army and hid in the forests of Scotland. However, humans didn't stop because of this. Humans continued to expand toward all lands that were suitable for living. The war started again. It was still the humans who emerged victorious. This time, the 100-headed serpent's monster army was almost completely wiped out. The rest were also scattered and fled deeper into the forest. The 100-headed serpent was sealed. Humans built a castle on the seal of the 100-headed serpent. It was Death Valley Castle. Of course, Death Valley Castle wasn't called that back then. Vagris was the oldest noble family in England. This was because his family had always guarded this castle and shouldered the responsibility of watching over it. In the end, people had even forgotten the meaning of this family's existence. However, the people in his family still kept their previous vows. This was also why Nagran Vagris was shocked by Chen Zhao, a human who could fight against the king of monsters. In the ancient documents kept by the Vagris family, there were records of the two wars between humans and the king of monsters. Many of the documents described how terrifying the king of monsters was. In fact, during the Second War, rather than defeating the king of monsters, it was more accurate to say that he had schemed against it. The so-called seal was actually to make it sleep. While it was sleeping, he built a castle on top of its head. At that time, there was no existence in Europe that could rival the king of monsters. At that time, the spiritual world in Europe was far less prosperous and active than it was today. The 100 heads of the 100-headed snake attacked Chen Zhao wildly. Chen Zhao punched one after another, continuously shattering the snake's heads. However, even if its head was chopped off or shattered, it could still regrow in the blink of an eye. It had an almost inexhaustible life force. Flesh and blood rained down from the sky. Everyone was amazed by this earth-shattering battle. Neither side seemed to be able to do anything to the other. Nagran Vagris looked at Ruan Fassbender, Lisa and more. The three of them huddled together, seemingly not worried about the outcome at all, as if they were discussing something. Fa Shiban explained to the president later. Why do I have to explain? Why don't you go? Because you're the oldest and we're all underage. You're not embarrassed to ask us to face the president? Why? I'm old. You should think about me too. Anyway, the president spoils you kids a lot. You're more suitable than me. I don't want to, Lisa rejected immediately. The president almost killed me back then. Then let's play rock, paper, scissors, Ruan Fassbender said. Whoever said it has to explain. Sure, Mo Air agreed. Moore was still too young. He didn't see Lisa and Ruan Fassbender exchange glances. In the end, they left without saying anything. Moore had a long face. How about 2 out of 3? What do you think? While they were chatting casually, Nagran Vagris and his family members were frightened out of their wits. The battle between Chen Zhao and the 100-headed snake was too intense. It was completely beyond their imagination. Chen Zhao was scary, but the 100-headed snake was even scarier. No matter how many heads Chen Zhao killed, the 100-headed snake could regrow instantly. To Nagran Vagris, if this continued, Chen Zhao would run out of energy sooner or later. By then, the situation would definitely be reversed. Nagran Vagris didn't know whether he wanted Chen Zhao to win, or the 100-headed snake to win. Chen Zhao didn't believe that the 100-headed snake could always grow heads. There was no such thing as immortality in the world. Chen Zhao had only killed 1,000 heads of the 100-headed snake. Basically, he'd cut off 10 heads on each neck. But the 100-headed snake still didn't run out of energy. The heads continued to grow. Chen Zhao was getting tired of it. He suddenly sped up and charged into the mouth of a head. To Nagran Vagris, it looked like Chen Zhao was swallowed by the head. Chen Zhao forcefully charged into the 100-headed snake's esophagus. Chen Zhao wanted to see what the 100-headed snake's body looked like. But halfway through, Chen Zhao realized that the 100-headed snake's body started turning into rock. More accurately, the body of a snake grew out of the rock. All the snakes' bodies were connected to a rock that was hundreds of meters wide. The 100-headed snake should have been sealed here in ancient times. Could it have been sealed for too long and turned into a fossil? Chen Zhao broke out of the snake's stomach. Of course, this was just Chen Zhao's imagination running wild. As long as a creature was still alive, its cells would be active. It wouldn't turn into a fossil for no reason. By then, the other snake heads had retracted too. They attacked Chen Zhao even more crazily. Right now, Chen Zhao was more interested in the rock that had fused with the 100-headed snake. He wasn't interested in fighting the 100-headed snake anymore. Chen Zhao took out his black trident and stabbed it at the place where the 100-headed snake and the rock were connected. The 100-headed snake's body started shrinking rapidly. As expected, the black trident had never disappointed Chen Zhao when it came to killing creatures with strong recovery abilities. Chen Zhao grabbed the rock that weighed hundreds of thousands of tons and put it away. He would study it later. Chen Zhao walked out of the cave. He glanced at Ruan Faxben, Risa and more. Then his gaze fell on Nagran Vagris and his kin. President, the culprit is already dead. I think it's about time. They've been punished. Ruan Fazabin kicked the corpse in front of him. It was Lepro Weeder's body. Chapter 1903. Chen Zhao looked at them, and then at the corpses on the ground. Without saying anything, he flew out of the pit. Dozens of people stared at each other. Chen Zhao knew that Ruan Faisai wanted him to let these people go. Chen Zhao was just using this as an excuse. He didn't kill them all. But this didn't mean that Chen Zhao could calm down. Li Pelua Weeder had sacrificed himself. His act of self-sacrifice in order to protect his compatriots might seem noble to them. But it didn't mean that Chen Zhao would pity him. He was the one who had caused all of this. Of course he should be punished. Ruan Faxabon glanced at Nagran Vagris. Take us out. Don't tell me there's no way out. Nagran Vagris silently led the way, and didn't say anything along the way. His relatives followed behind him. They were also quiet. Ruan Faisai Lisa, and more didn't care about their feelings. They were still chatting happily. They also knew that their relationship with Nagran Vagris wasn't the same as before. In the past they weren't that good, but they could at least pretend to be polite. But now, they didn't even pretend to be polite anymore. Both sides had extremely bad impressions of each other. Nagran Vagris was just angry, but didn't dare to say anything. He watched as his own son sacrificed himself to protect the entire clan. This was a huge blow to him. But he couldn't do anything. The power that Chen Zhao had displayed was too terrifying. No wonder Ruan and the others had said that the person behind them could talk to 23rd Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi on equal terms. When Ruan and the others returned to the hospital, they saw Chen Zhao standing outside Xian Li's room, waiting for them. "President, did you go see Xian Li?" "No," Chen Zhao said. "Don't tell her that I didn't interfere. Just pretend that I never came, and that I don't know anything." "Why do that? If she knows that I interfered, she'll only feel more defeated." "Okay, I understand." Ruan Faxburn handed Chen Zhao a ring. This was a magic tool that he'd made. He'd just gotten it from Nagran Vagris. "Okay, I'm going back." "Ah, President. You're going back just like that? What else? What do you want from me? Punish you?" The expressions of the three of them were unnatural. Risa and more silently cursed Ruan Faxi for being a busybody. "Not really." Ruan Faxburn's expression was a little stiff. "It's okay. Everyone has inconveniences in the outside world. I can understand." "Ah, thank you, President." The three were overjoyed. "All the debts will be settled after we return. I won't punish you for now." In the next moment, the three of them fell into despair. After saying a few words to the three, Chen Zhao turned and left. As soon as Chen Zhao left, Kalan opened the door. "Mr. Farsben, Lisa Moore, you're back? Who were you talking to?" "It's nothing. How is Xian Li doing?" "He's just a little depressed. Everything else is fine. His injuries haven't worsened." Chen Zhao returned to Moon Villa. It was only 3 in the morning in Los Angeles. Chen Zhao realized that Yang Guo and Lily were still awake. In the front yard, Yang Guo and Lily suddenly saw Chen Zhao descend from the sky. They all jumped in fright, wondering who it was. "You're still awake?" Chen Zhao looked at them. "You're awake too. Where did you go?" Yang Guo drank a mouthful of beer. "Would you believe me if I told you I went to England? It's more than 8,000 kilometers from here." Yang Guo's tone clearly indicated that he didn't believe Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged. Unless he flew with him, Yang Guo wouldn't believe him. "Oh, do you know what this is?" Chen Zhao took out a piece of stone the size of a finger. At first, Yang Guo thought it was a normal stone. However, after turning it over and over in his hand, he discovered that this finger-sized stone carried a special aura. It contained some kind of energy, but he couldn't tell what it was. "Where did you get this?" Yang Guo asked. "I picked it up. Can I send it back to Dragon Tiger Mountain? Perhaps the elders of Mount Longhu will be able to tell." "Sure, take it." Yang Guo didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so easy to talk to. Just then, the butler system suddenly sounded an alarm. "Master, 2 unidentified people are approaching Mingyue Villa." With that, the butler system projected a surveillance image on the wall. Lily and Yang Guo stood up abruptly. "It's them. You're the 2 of them." "Yes, it's them," Lily said without hesitation. Mingyue Villa didn't have a front door. There were only a few mechanical blocks. If no one went to stop them, they couldn't stop them. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't plan on stopping them. "Chen Zhao, what do we do? Fight. What's there to hesitate about?" "Are you sure? These 2 people are quite strong. Don't you have confidence in me? They're not weak after all." Chen Zhao didn't refute Yang Guo's doubts. By then, Beast and Spirit Fox had arrived at Mingyue Villa and the front yard. With the holy spear in his hand, Beast glanced at Chen Zhao, who was lying on the bench with his legs crossed. He then shifted his gaze to Lily and Yang Guo. At this moment, Yang Guo and Lily were ready for battle. Beast and Spirit Fox saw that Chen Zhao was still sitting there without moving. They thought that Chen Zhao didn't plan on interfering. If Chen Zhao didn't interfere, it would save them a lot of trouble. Chen Zhao had been lying down lazily, but when he saw the spear in Beast's hand, he raised an eyebrow and stood up. "Let me see that thing." Chen Zhao curled his finger. Chen Zhao actually really wanted to borrow it to take a look. But to Beast and Spirit Fox, it sounded like Chen Zhao was provoking them. Without hesitation, Beast raised the spear and pointed it at Chen Zhao. "If you want to stop God's will, you should accept God's punishment." Chen Zhao listened to Beast's tone. Why did it sound like a madman who'd been brainwashed by religion? I want to ask, how do you want to punish me? With the holy spear, of course. Beast raised the spear and shot it at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao raised his palm and blocked the spear's trajectory. But just then, Chen Zhao's palm was pierced. Chapter 1904. Everyone was stunned, including Chen Zhao. What was this? It could actually hurt him. After piercing through Chen Zhao's palm, Beast waved his hand. Beast waved his hand. Chen Zhao felt a suction force appear on the holy spear that had pierced through his hand. It was about to leave his hand. Chen Zhao grabbed the holy spear in his hand. The spear kept vibrating in Chen Zhao's hand, fighting against Chen Zhao's power. Come back! Beast roared. The spear resisted even more fiercely. Chen Zhao looked at his pierced right palm. His right palm recovered very slowly. It was almost as fast as a normal person. In the wound, there was a power that was organizing his own immortal power to heal the wound. Chen Zhao channeled more immortal power. If the power didn't force the wound out, it wouldn't heal at all. Get out! Chen Zhao tried his best to force the power out of the wound. The power wasn't weak indeed. But Chen Zhao's body was his home field after all. How could Chen Zhao lose to an ownerless power in his home field? A black ball of energy shot out from the wound on Chen Zhao's palm. This mass of energy was enormous. After hovering in the air for a while, it suddenly charged at the spear. After Chen Zhao forced the black ball of energy out of the wound, it healed immediately. At the same time, the spear resisted even more fiercely. It also emitted a scorching heat. If a normal person held it, they would probably fall out in the blink of an eye. Giant spirit transformation, dark assimilation, body double. All techniques returned to one. Chen Zhao entered his complete form. Chen Zhao had already put on the ring that hid his aura. So Chen Zhao only looked like his form had changed, but his aura wasn't leaked. Beast and Spirit Fox were very anxious. This had never happened before. They couldn't retrieve the spear. This had never happened before. By now, the spear had turned crimson in Chen Zhao's hand. It was like a red-hot soldering iron. But Chen Zhao still held it tightly. The spear started growing bigger and heavier. Chen Zhao didn't hold back anymore. He increased his grip on the spear to the maximum. The part of the spear that he held started cracking. Beast and Spirit Fox's expressions changed drastically when they saw this. They attacked Chen Zhao directly. Chen Zhao lifted his foot, and the beast was kicked into the air. He then raised his right arm and aimed it at the beast. A white light shot out. When the wild beast landed on the ground, it was already charred. It couldn't be any more dead. The beast's corpse released a black energy that returned to the sacred spear. The Spirit Fox held two swords and slashed at Chen Zhao's thigh. However, the Spirit Fox's twin swords were broken. Chen Zhao lifted his foot and stomped down. The Spirit Fox was also crushed into meat paste. Yanggua's expression was unnatural, and Lei covered her mouth. The two people who had been chasing them were actually defeated and killed by Chen Zhao just like that. The entire process was too easy and casual. It was so casual that they couldn't believe it. The Spirit Fox's corpse also released a wave of black energy and returned to the sacred spear. Chen Zhao focused more on the holy spear in his hand. The power of this weapon was unparalleled. He couldn't even control it. If you continue to cause trouble, I'll destroy you. By now Chen Zhao had gone all out. Rainbow halos appeared above his head. Yanggua raised an eyebrow. He couldn't sense Chen Zhao's aura. He couldn't feel Chen Zhao's aura, but he could still feel it when Chen Zhao used force. Chen Zhao's body was enveloped by the tremendous force of the world. Once Chen Zhao used the force of the world, the sacred spear resisted even more fiercely. Chen Zhao's power was incompatible with the sacred spear's own power. They were like fire and water. The sacred spear had already turned crimson. Even Chen Zhao's fist, which was holding the spear, had turned red. Crack! A piece of his hand had already cracked. Cracks also started spreading from the broken part. Just then, Chen Zhao's right hand also grabbed the sacred spear. The sacred spear started to bend and change shape. Stop! Stop! Just then, the sacred spear suddenly made a sound. The sound was filled with panic and impatience. Yanggua and Lei both looked at Chen Zhao and the sacred spear in shock. Who are you? Chen Zhao didn't retract his power. He still used the same strength to bend the sacred spear. If Chen Zhao increased his strength by 10%, he could completely break the sacred spear. Tagoya Abbey. Chen Zhao turned his head and looked at Yonggua. Have you heard of this name? No. Yonggua also didn't know. Tagoya, the ruler of the old days, Lei said. He's the famous exploder in the Cthulhu mythos. He symbolizes fire, and is a third-tier existence in the Cthulhu mythos. Yonggua looked at Lei in surprise, because he knew that Lei hadn't come into contact with the spiritual world. He shouldn't be too familiar with the matters of the spirit world. How did she know this name? Lei, how do you know? Yonggua asked. I'm the author of the Cthulhu mythos, Lei said. I've already published 2 books related to the Cthulhu mythos. Why are you hunting her? Chen Zhao asked. Because she's a snitch. Because she's a snitch, Tagoya Abbey said. Katugia Abbey said. What she wrote is leaking our plans. Chen Zhao and Yonggua exchanged glances. Then Chen Zhao asked, what plan? I don't know. You won't be scared if I don't teach you a lesson, right? Chen Zhao increased his strength. The Holy Lance's arc was already huge. It looked like it was about to break. I really don't know. My mission is to kill all the snitches. Who gave you the mission? I don't know. You're too perfunctory. Chen Zhao sounded displeased. It must be my superiors. I submit to them. They can communicate with me mentally, but I can't read their thoughts. Then tell me your plan. What are you going to do? At first, I attached myself to a human body, but I realized that a human body couldn't sustain my power. So I had my believer make this gun. Then I attached myself to this gun and started looking for snitches like this woman. In 1,000 years, I've been in the hands of many humans and killed one snitch after another. 1,000 years? You've existed in this world for 1,000 years? 1,000 years is just an instant to me. My time is far beyond what you humans can imagine. The Cthulhu mythos only appeared in the last century, right? Chen Zhao asked, confused. No, the Cthulhu mythos only became famous in the last century. Actually, the original author, Howard Philip Lovecraft, wrote it after consulting many ancient documents. Rumor has it that Howard Philip Lovecraft was influenced by something unspeakable. 9 Heaven's Divine King. Chapter 1905. What's your original body like? Chen Zhao was curious. If I destroy the spear, will you come out? Tagoya Abbey fell silent. The great old ones can't appear in the modern world, Lei said. At least not in the setting. Chen Zhao could feel the mysterious murderous intent from the spear. Clearly, Lei had hit Katugia Abbey's sore spot. What if it appears in the modern world? Chen Zhao asked. Obliterate, Lei said. The murderous intent on the spear intensified. So if I destroy the spear, this guy will lose his protection and be obliterated? Yonggua looked at Lei in confusion. How do you know? I just know. It seems like the setting should be like this. Lei was also confused. Just then, Samuel jumped onto Chen Zhao's shoulder. This guy is the god of fire element among the unusual gods. Chen Zhao was surprised. He's an unusual god? Like the unusual gods I've met before? Yes, but he's just a bit stronger. Then why can those from the past appear in their original bodies, but this guy can't? Just like how we demons from hell can't appear in the modern world, but it's not an absolute restriction. In fact, only the great lords will receive absolute punishment. Those below that will at most be suppressed. The unusual gods also come from hell? No, they come from another world, Samuel said disapprovingly. They think they're strong and want to take over hell. In the end, they're all kept in hell and treated as pigs by us. But I have to admit that they taste really good. Yonggua and Lei couldn't understand the conversation between Chen Zhao and Samuel. Chen Zhao's language was already hard to understand, while Samuel was meowing. But they could clearly tell that Chen Zhao was talking to the little kitten. So do you know his intentions? It's nothing more than these ancient gods wanting to develop some believers, or search for some possibility of descending. However, some prophets learned of their existence in advance, and then leaked their information, and even their plans. This guy called Kutagia Abbey, to put it bluntly, is an assassin sent by the ancient gods. She's a prophet? Chen Zhao glanced at Lei. A complete world will always have all kinds of rules. However, no matter how complete a world is, There will always be some loopholes in the rules. Profits exist to make up for these loopholes. It's just like computer repair software. It's not a big deal. There are thousands of prophets in the world, all kinds of prophets and all kinds of loopholes. If all the other worldling gods descend, won't Earth be in danger? What danger? Your current strength is more than enough to deal with it. The most powerful otherworldly god will never descend, just like how the demon king of hell will never descend. Even if you don't do anything, the otherworldly gods can't rule the world. Samuel landed on the spear. Give this to me. I don't have this breed in my ranch. Kutagoya Abbey couldn't understand their conversation. However, he could clearly feel a strong sense of malice. How are you going to get it back? By mail? No need. Use all your strength to throw him into space. I'll retrieve him myself, Samuel said. Thrown into outer space? Are you serious? It's too difficult to use my real body's power in the modern world, but I can leave it. Fine. Chen Zhao gripped the spear tightly. What are you doing? What are you going to do to me? Kutagoya Abbey screamed in fear. He seemed to have sensed something. Chen Zhao took 2 steps back with the spear. Then he sprinted. The airflow caused by Chen Zhao's sprinting made Yanghua and Lily lose their balance. The airflow was too strong. After sprinting more than 10 meters, Chen Zhao increased his strength to the maximum. The spear flew out of his hand in an instant. Bang! The spear broke through 100 times the speed of sound and pierced through the clouds under the night sky. It was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it was tens of thousands of meters in the sky. Chen Zhao had thrown it with tens of millions of tons of force. The speed was unimaginable. No aircraft in the world could compare to this speed. Yanghua and Lily's mouths were agape as they watched the long spear disappear into the night. In 2 minutes, it had surpassed the International Space Station. In 3 minutes, it had left low Earth orbit. With Chen Zhao's strength, the spear also disappeared after leaving low Earth orbit. In the end, it disappeared into the void. Perhaps a human device had found the spear. But because the spear had gone too fast, there was no time to monitor it. How can you give it up so easily? That spear should be a powerful weapon, right? Yanghua looked at Chen Zhao confused. I have something better, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Why do I need the spear? You can give it to me even if you don't want it. I'm happy to accept it. Then go get it. Yanghua was speechless. If the spear was on Dragon Tiger Mountain, it could probably be their trump card. Okay, Chen Zhao said. You're not a threat anymore. You can leave now. That's not nice of you. Why are you in such a hurry to chase away guests? You two are troublemakers. If I don't chase you away, would I keep you for New Year? But it's 3 in the morning. Then leave tomorrow morning. Oh, don't forget our bet. In half a year, you have to come whenever I call you. Chen Zhao hadn't forgotten their bet. Thinking of it, Yanghua felt a toothache. Why was he so stupid back then? Why did he bet with Chen Zhao? In the end, he'd fallen into a trap himself. He wanted to go back on his word, but when he thought of Chen Zhao's terrifying power, he gave up on the idea. If Chen Zhao could shoot a spear into outer space, he could probably shoot people into outer space too. Just think about what would happen if he angered Chen Zhao. If Chen Zhao threw himself into outer space, it would feel scarily good. Then the two returned to their rooms to pack. In the morning, the two of them carried their luggage and left. Yanghua kept complaining that Chen Zhao didn't know how to treat guests. On the other hand, Chen Zhao completely treated them as jinxes. Chen, why did Lily and Yang leave? They left if there's nothing else. Otherwise, how long do you think they should stay here? Okay, they don't look like bad people. They're not bad, but they're very troublesome. Chapter 1906. Boss, Portia was here for breakfast again. Take care of the house, Chen Zhao said. I have something to do in the morning. Chen, where are you going in the morning? West and the others are going to Africa, Chen Zhao said. I'm taking them to the airport. When Chen Zhao arrived at the headquarters, the luggage of 20 to 30 people filled up 2 trucks. There was no one in Chen Zhao's MPV. It was filled with luggage. Chen Zhao increasingly felt that he should get a private plane. West sat in the front passenger seat. President, I heard something happened to Exanli in Edinburgh. Yes, something happened. Chen Zhao nodded. I'll pretend that I don't know. I don't want to hurt her confidence. Chen Zhao also understood that it was impossible for someone to be completely fine outside. Moreover, there was a certain degree of danger in the spirit world. You couldn't blame Ruan Faxburn, Rissa and more. After all, they weren't real nannies and bodyguards. They couldn't watch Xian Li all the time. If Xian Li was called back, because of something like this, Xian Li would probably be traumatized for the rest of her life. Is there any news from the government? Not at the moment. West shook his head. This matter might not fall on us. Any news from the psionic team? No, they've been very obedient recently. They're just developing themselves quietly. Developing? Expanding? Chen Zhao and West had talked about the development of the supernatural organization. In the end, they decided that expanding wasn't a good choice. If there were too many people, there would be conflicts between factions. Most people in the organization didn't like to play politics. Even Chen Zhao didn't understand politics. So rather than being disloyal when there were too many people, it was better to take the path of fewer people. Having more people was never a problem. Chen Zhao and West hoped that there were more people. The more people there were, the messier it would be. The more people there were, the easier it would be for them to sneak in. Chen Zhao sent them to the airport. He saw Yanghua and Lily. Looking at their big and small bags, they seemed to be going far away. Yang, where are you going? Back home, Yanghua said unhappily. Back home? For what? What do you mean? Do I need your permission to go back home? What do you think? Chen Zhao smiled at Yanghua. Yanghua's face kept twitching. I'll send Lily to Mount Longhu, Yanghua said after adjusting his tone. She can go to China. But you can't. At least not for the next 6 months. Why? Although I lost the bet to you, I didn't sell myself. No, you did sell yourself. Chen Zhao shook his head. It's not safe for a woman to go to a strange place. Wuxia is the safest place in the world. Why would it be unsafe? It's not like we're sending her to some battlefield. I'll go back to Los Angeles soon. If you don't come back, I can still go to Dragon Tiger Mountain to catch you, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. You're not allowed to go. How can you be like this? Do you believe that I can make you run 3 laps around the airport naked? Just trust me, okay? Not good. Yanghua felt a wave of helplessness. Why was he so unlucky? He had just left Chen Zhao's place in the morning, and now he was at the airport again. To be honest, he really wanted to go back to China. As long as he hid in the country, Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to find him no matter how powerful he was. Chen Zhao took out his phone and called Yanghua. In the end, there was no response. Wow, you even changed your phone number, and you're not planning to run away? Chen Zhao glared at Yanghua with a dark expression. This was awkward. Yanghua twitched his lips. My number is offline because it owes me money. The operator is really bad, so I changed my number. Do you think I'll believe you? I'm serious. Okay, Ms. Lely, go to China alone. Have fun. Chen Zhao put his hand on Yanggua's shoulder. Lely looked at Yanghua, who could only nod helplessly. Lely, go. I've already arranged everything in China. My seniors will pick you up at the airport. Don't worry. Lely nodded. Yanghua wanted to cry, but no tears came out. If he had entered the departure lounge, he wouldn't have run into Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao dragged Yanghua out of the airport and into the car. What's your new phone number? It's the same one. Then why can't I get through to you? Yanggua's face twitched again. Don't you know that phones have a function called the blacklist? What grudge do you have? Why did you put me on the blacklist? Let's not talk about this, okay? Yanghua kept sighing. Why was he so unlucky? Why was he caught by Chen Zhao? Where are you going? Send me to my place, Yanghua said. Yanggua's place wasn't bad. It was a high-end neighborhood. But when he reached his house, Yanghua didn't get out. He kept frowning. What's wrong? There's an uninvited guest in my house. Yanghua was very unhappy. Which house is yours? Chen Zhao asked. That one. Through Yanggua's directions, Chen Zhao realized that there were 2 people in Yanggua's house. There are 2 people inside. Are they the uninvited guests? Chen Zhao turned to Yanghua. Do you need me to send them away? No. I don't like them, but they're not enemies. They broke into your house. Aren't they enemies? I don't like them, but I don't want to be enemies with them. Who are they? An organization called the Spiritual Team. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. Spiritual Team? Is the person in charge called Vestana? You know them? Yang Guo looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. The purpose of the Spiritual Team is to be my enemy, Chen Zhao said. So they're your enemies? Good thing I didn't join them. Do they want you to join them? A smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. Seeing Chen Zhao's smile, Yang Guo had a bad feeling. Please don't ask me to be a spy. I don't have the talent. Since you're so enthusiastic, I'll agree to your request. You can join the Spiritual Team. What? I said I won't join. I'm from Dragon Tiger Mountain. I can't betray my master. It's fine. If old Zhang has any complaints, I'll handle it for you. Go in peace. I don't want. You don't have a choice, Chen Zhao said coldly. Don't worry about being a spy. If there's any news, remember to tell me. You have my number. You can get out now. Chapter 1907. Can I say no? Yang Guo looked at Chen Zhao with a sad face. Oh, which generation are you from Dragon Tiger Mountain? Chen Zhao suddenly changed the topic. The Dao generation. Are you the successor of Mount Longhu? No, why do you ask? It's fine. I just want to know if old Zhang will turn against me if I kill you. Chen Zhao, we don't have such a big grudge. Also, my grandmaster loves me a lot. It's okay. I'll go find a few Qiaofongs, Ling Huchong, Duan Yu Guijing Zhang Wuji and so on. Your grandmaster just wants to have some fun. Hearing that, Yang Guo felt even more stifled. In Chen Zhao's words, he was a joke. Alright, don't pull a long face. Go. Chen Zhao patted Yang Guo's shoulder. It's only half a year. It's not like you have to be an opportunist for the rest of your life. Yang Guo did not believe this sentence. Being a spy once meant being a spy for a lifetime. After Yang Guo got off, Chen Zhao drove away. Just then, Chen Zhao received Dell's call. Chen, come here. Oh, are you at home? No, I'm at the hotel. Alright, I'll head over now. Chen Zhao arrived at the hotel and saw that Li Qing was also in Dell's office. Chen, please persuade my master. What's there to advise? Sister Qing, what's wrong? Nothing. I just want Dell to help me save the money. It's nothing big, Li Qing said. She had a check in her hand. Chen Zhao was confused. Dell, since Auntie Qing asked you to save money for her, just do it for her. What's so difficult about it? Chen Zhao took the check from Li Qing and looked at it. His eyes almost popped out. $20 million. 20 million US dollars? Dell, did you give it to your master? Not me. Dell shook his head. Master said it was a client you introduced last time. That client paid her. Chen Zhao was amazed. Last time, he had introduced Li Qing to Amira casually. Amira then introduced Li Qing to her father. She didn't expect her father to be so generous as to give her 20 million US dollars. This was an astronomical figure for any spiritualist. Even if it's a lot of money, it shouldn't be a problem, right? I can guarantee that the money came from a clear source. I'm not afraid that Master's money came from an unknown source. I just feel that with so much money, Master doesn't need to work for that old bastard Ethan anymore. In fact, this had nothing to do with 20 million US dollars. Even without 20 million US dollars, Dell was willing to take care of Li Qing until she died. Dell didn't like Ethan either. Even if Li Qing helped him take care of Faith and teach her spells, he would be more than happy to do so. Chun, help me persuade my master too. She's already so rich now. She doesn't need to work at Ethan's place all day. What advice can I give? I don't care. He knew that Li Qing didn't stay with Ethan for the salary. It was because to Li Qing, she was a grateful person. When she was at her most desperate, Chen Zhao and Ethan gave her a place to stay. Just then Li Qing said, even with the 20 million, your headquarters can't make me do nothing, right? Master, I didn't say that I want you to just eat and wait to die. If you feel that you have nothing to do, come to my hotel. We are short of a department manager. You can come here and be a department manager. Isn't it better than that small motel? You don't need me. Plus, I can't be a department manager. Dell looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged. I can't help you either. Dell was depressed. He'd had high hopes for Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao rejected him directly. Chen Zhao knew that Dell and Ethan were fighting fiercely. However, they were both Chen Zhao's friends, so Chen Zhao never interfered. Mr. Chen, did your cultivation improve again? Li Qing clearly didn't want to continue this topic. She changed the topic to Chen Zhao. But Li Qing's eyesight was indeed good. Her cultivation wasn't high, but her eyesight was definitely rare. Even Zhang Tianyi might not have her eyesight. Auntie Li, how can you tell? You have the qi of great minister now. Your face is a combination of dragon and tiger. Last time I saw you, you didn't have this, so I guessed that your cultivation improved greatly, or that you obtained some treasure. Master, what's the qi of great minister? Qi refers to power. The so-called qi of great minister is described as the tides move the wind and clouds, the hidden dragon in the mountains, the spiritual light in the heart, the treasure elephant dancing in the wind. Li Qing said, you haven't learned physiognomy yet, so you can't tell Mr. Chen's level. What about the combination of dragon and tiger? What is it? In physiognomy, a person's face is divided into upper and lower qi. The upper is cloud and the lower is wind. The cloud follows the dragon, and the wind follows the tiger. That's why it's said that everyone has a dragon and a tiger. When the qi is up, the dragon is a king. When the qi is down, the tiger is a hero. Mr. Chen's face is a combination of dragon and tiger. Master, look at my physiognomy. Do I have a chance to be a king or something? You're thinking too much. You have the face of a tiger rising to the sun, and a dragon diving into the water. This is the face of prosperity and wealth, and you will not have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of your life. As for the dragon, it doesn't mean that you can be a king or an emperor, but it means that this kind of physiognomy is extremely precious in the world. It doesn't respect heaven and earth. It doesn't respect ghosts and gods. It only respects one's heart. Li Qing said, people with these two types of physiognomy are either too self-centered and selfish, or they're sinister and vile. Therefore, it's not advisable to have too much contact with these two types of people. Everyone will more or less have their qi fall, and their lower qi rise. This is also a person's personality that changes constantly. You have this kind of personality, and so does Mr. Chen. Everyone is the same. Many people in the world can be summed up in this way. Li Qing paused and continued. And the qi of dragon and tiger is the embrace of wind and cloud. It's a combination of yin and yang. Only people with a clear mind can have this kind of physiognomy. This kind of physiognomy is worthy of the word great. The Qingyi sect was born out of Maoshan Taoism. Maoshan was not only good at refining corpses, but also good at physiognomy. The founder of the Qingyi sect, Shengliu Qingyi, traveled the world in his early years, relying on his physiognomy. Later on, he established his own sect and became the Qingyi sect. Shengliu Qingyi's name also spread all over the world. Li Qing was the current successor of the Qingyi sect. She had third-rate abilities in subduing demons, second-rate cultivation, and first-rate physiognomy. Is there anything special about the word great? Ordinary people look at their physiognomy, but people with great physiognomy can only look at their qi, not their faces. I still don't understand. Aren't they all the same? Looking at qi can see the present, not the future, but looking at the face can see the past, present, and future, Li Qing said. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1908. Most of the Qingyi sect's books were still in Chen Zhao's hands. However, Chen Zhao couldn't learn physiognomy. Fei Lai, on the other hand, kept reading. As Li Qing's direct disciple, Dell also didn't know physiognomy. Actually, Li Qing cared more about Dell's daughter Faith. Faith was too talented. She had a higher chance of inheriting Li Qing's legacy. Master, Chen's cultivation is higher than yours, right? Li Qing rolled her eyes. Mr. Chen's cultivation has always been higher than mine. Then how high is Chen's cultivation now? Then you should ask him yourself. Dell looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged. I can't tell how high it is, but I should be in the top 10 in the world. That's strong. Dell wasn't convinced. Chen, let's fight. Chen Zhao and Li Qing rolled their eyes at the same time. Although cultivation did not represent one's battle prowess, but Chen Zhao said that he could be in the top 10 in the world. His combat ability definitely wasn't weak. Dell was still at a mediocre level. However, Dell still didn't have an accurate concept of cultivation and combat ability. It was mainly because he hadn't interacted with people from the spiritual world. Who had he interacted with now? Chen Zhao, Li Qing, and his daughter Faith. None of the three of them would really fight with him. So Del always felt good about himself. Auntie Li, I'm going back, Chen Zhao said. Chen, don't go. Fight with me. Chen Zhao lifted his hand and flicked his finger. A small fist shadow hit the wall and created a hole. Del, are you sure you want me to open a hole in your body? I can do it if I train for a while longer. Chen Zhao and Li Qing both smiled bitterly. Li Qing could tell that Chen Zhao hadn't even used 1% of his strength. Del thought that Chen Zhao had used his full strength. But Chen Zhao didn't show his strength, because he didn't want to give Del too much pressure. It was just like the theory of speed racing. If one was ahead by only a body's length, or a short distance, it would only incite the latecomers to catch up. However, if one was in the lead for 2 big laps, it would only bring despair to the latecomers, and cause them to give up on the competition. Chen Zhao knew this, and so did Li Qing. Only Del didn't. So he basically didn't use magic in front of Del. Even if he used it, it would be like a dragonfly touching the surface of the water. Master, what kind of spell did Chen use to punch holes in the air? Many types of magic can do that, and the Green Robe sect has them as well. However, Chen Zhao is relatively simple. As long as your cultivation reaches his level, you can also do it. Master, can you do it? I'll try. Chen Zhao strolled through the back garden of the hotel, admiring the scenery. Del and Risfar, on the other hand, understand and enjoy it. At this moment, a group of people came over. That group of people was surrounding a person. The 2 bodyguards in front cleared the way. The garden path was narrow, and it was difficult for 3 people to stand. Chen Zhao stood in the middle of the road. The 2 bodyguards walked up to him and tried to push him. Stop, go away. Wang He actually enjoyed this process. He had a team of 10 personal assistants. There were also 4 bodyguards arranged by PLM to protect him during the North American trip. This was Wang He's first time enjoying the treatment of a superstar. Yes, a superstar. A movie had made him one of the superstars. His fame both domestically and internationally had reached its peak. This time, he had come here not only for 2 North American interview shows, but also for the celebration party. However, when he saw Chen Zhao, he quickly pushed the 2 bodyguards away. Wang He jogged over to Chen Zhao and smiled at him. Mr. Chen, hello. Chen Zhao glanced at the team behind Wang He. You sure have a lot of people here. It's all thanks to Mr. Chen, Wang He said, smiling apologetically. The assistants behind him were all from China. Even Wang He's current manager was brand new. He could summon wind and rain in the Chinese entertainment industry, but he didn't dare to put on airs before Chen Zhao. After all, he wanted to take a few more movies in Hollywood. Plus, Chen Zhao's background wasn't as simple as Hollywood. Offending Chen Zhao here would result in terrible consequences. When did you come to Los Angeles? Just today. Oh, Chen Ku is here too. We're here for the celebration party, Wang He said. I was going to visit you 2 days ago. Then come visit when you're free. You know where I live anyway. Chen Zhao nodded. I'll be going now. Okay, I won't see you off. Bye. Bye. Wang He kept his eyes on Chen Zhao. When he disappeared from his sight, he heaved a sigh of relief. Brother Wang, who is that person? Is he in the entertainment industry too? Manager Lu asked curiously. He had just been assigned to Wang He by the company. Lu wasn't old, but he was an experienced manager. His work style was also mature. He knew how to coordinate the interests of celebrities and various resources. He himself is a billionaire. The chairman of PLM and Steven are good friends of his. He was the one who helped me get the role in Abduction. Also, he was the one who arranged for me to play the role in Abduction. Also, my wife in the movie Chen Ku is his cousin. Wang He looked at little Lu. Do you think I would dare to be disrespectful to him? Little Lu gasped. He immediately understood why Wang He had lowered his stance so much earlier. Wang He still had some information that he didn't say. Chen Zhao's information wasn't as simple as he said. Will he appear at the celebration party? Probably not. He doesn't like that kind of occasion. Arrange a time, and we'll visit him tomorrow. Okay, I'll arrange the time and schedule. Wang He was no longer a second-tier or third-tier celebrity. In the past, he had to strictly follow his manager's arrangements for all his activities and schedules. But it was different now. All the company's resources were focused on him. Of course, there was also Chunku. Chunku's resources weren't much less than his. After all, Chunku was famous and influential. She was also Chen Zhao's cousin. Wang He didn't dare to compete with Chunku. Of course, their actual conflicts weren't big. After all, their roles, character designs, and development directions were all different. Moreover, Wang He and Chunku played a couple in kidnapping. Therefore, they were recognized as a screen couple and were very popular in the domestic market. Wang He didn't lack fame or status. What he lacked was experience. Wang He was very careful when choosing new works. He didn't dare to be careless. Chapter 1909. Now there were a few Hollywood film companies that had offered him roles. But Wang He didn't agree. They were all third-tier companies. There wasn't even a second-tier company. None of them were A-grade or above either. Wang He didn't want to make an independent movie either. He needed commercial recognition. Kidnapping had made him who he was. Now he needed to consolidate his position. So he needed a commercial film that had hope of success. Chen Zhao's power and connections were clearly a great help. Wang He obviously didn't want to become enemies with Chen Zhao. In the past, Chen Zhao had thought that the hardest job was being a doctor. But now, he felt that the hardest job was being a kindergarten teacher. When Chen Zhao returned home, Portia was already on the verge of breaking down. Chen Zhao's return was like a beacon of light in a sea of misery for Portia. "Boss, you're finally back." Portia's face was covered in tears. "I was only gone for half a day. What happened to you?" "Half a day? Why do I feel like half a century has passed?" "Okay, go rest. I'll call you when it's lunchtime." Chen Zhao patted Portia's shoulder. Portia rolled her eyes. "Boss, I'm not tired anymore." "Oh, since you're not tired, you can go buy takeout." "I'll go rest." Portia found a guest room and laid down. She was really tired. Chen Zhao changed his clothes and leaned against the yard. A few kids were playing in the front yard. Some were on the beach. This was Chen Zhao's favorite state. Doing nothing. Just then, a car entered Mingyue Villa. Lola arrived with the 3 children. "Hi, Lola." Chen Zhao went up and kissed her. Then he looked at Vera, Ronnie and Faith. "Lola, how come you're free today?" "Johnny went to Europe and I have to go to Australia tomorrow. So I can't take care of Vera and Ronnie. I could only bring them here." "What about Faith?" "Faith said that Vera and Ronnie aren't here and she's alone. After asking Del, I brought her here too." "Okay." Chen Zhao shrugged. The 3 families were familiar with each other and trusted each other. They both had children, so it was normal for them to help each other take care of their children. He didn't know if Portia would go crazy after seeing 3 more children. The 3 boys were already on the beach. The 3 of them were no strangers to this place. "Stay for lunch." At the dining table, when Portia saw the 3 extra children, she looked as if she had nothing to live for anymore. On the other hand, Chen Zhao and Laura were chatting away. "By the way, is Johnny going to Europe for work?" "It's about work." Laura nodded. "One of the ocean shipping company's cargo ships has been hijacked in Somali waters. And the Somali pirates are now demanding a ransom of 50 million USD. Will Johnny be in danger?" Chen Zhao asked, frowning. "He won't go to Somalia. Nothing will happen to him. I'm fine." Chen Zhao nodded. "Is Somalia a place for people?" He didn't even know when a bullet would be fired from the shadows. Where was Johnny's ship hijacked in the Somali waters? "I know some pirates. Maybe they can help." "You know pirates?" Laura looked at Chen Zhao surprised. "You know my job. Pirates have appeared in my patient list before. Are you sure that the pirates you know can help? Our biggest problem right now isn't money, but how to ensure the safety of the crew." Laura's words weren't just for humanitarian reasons, but for universal values. It also concerned the future of the ocean shipping company. If a company couldn't ensure the safety of its employees, it would be very passive. "I'm not 100% sure, but there's still hope. Even if we have to negotiate, it's better to negotiate with pirates than with Johnny." Of course, Chen Zhao knew that the Somali pirates were completely different from the pirates in other waters. Most of the Somali pirates were actually rebels. Plus, they wouldn't follow the rules, let alone be trustworthy. Laura hesitated for a moment. Do you want to give it a try? Laura wasn't confident. Of course, she didn't want Risfar to take the risk. But Risfar had always been very daring. Who knew if he would really go to Somalia? Give me the cargo ship's information. After lunch, Laura was about to leave. Chun, I'll leave it to you, but don't force yourself. At most, you'll have to pay a ransom. It's not unacceptable for us. I understand. Chun Zhao nodded. After Laura left, Chun Zhao picked up the phone. Guret, do you have any relationship with the Somali pirates? They're just a bunch of barbarians. Why do you ask? Guret asked, confused. My friend's cargo ship was robbed. I'm afraid I can't help you. My people and I are only active in the Pacific. We can't set foot in the Somali waters. Okay. Do you have any good suggestions? What do you want? My friend is in the shipping business after all. Will there be any problems? Chun Zhao asked. Don't worry. Those aren't normal pirates. They're just looking for an opportunity to do something. The power on the sea is at most a few small fishing boats. Next time, as long as we avoid this area and go a few hundred nautical miles, the Somali pirates won't be able to do anything. Mr. Risfar, it's too risky. You don't have to come here yourself. No, I do. Risfar was in the Somali waters at the moment. He was on a modified armed ship. Risfar's expression didn't look good. He wanted to know why his cargo ship had been hijacked. He had some connections with the local rebel government. Every year, they would give him a few $1,000,000 for passage. Thus, his cargo ship often passed by this area. There had never been any danger or hijacking. A few $1,000,000 wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. If all the ships under his company chose to go around this area, the cost would increase correspondingly. The price he would have to pay would be 10 times more than the few $1,000,000. He had to figure out if these pirates and the rebels behind them were still trustworthy, and if they could still maintain courtesy. After all, this wasn't a glorious thing. As the top ocean shipping company in Europe, if such a scandal was exposed, it would be a huge blow to the company's image. Risfar couldn't tell the negotiation team, so he could only do it himself. Chapter 1910. Just then, a fishing boat appeared in front of the ship. It wasn't even a third of the size of the ship. Mr. Risfar, the ship in front sent a message. It's a messenger sent by Roaman. He's requesting to come closer. Okay, Risfar said. Let him come closer. Risfar stood on the deck of the ship and watched the fishing boat come over. But it didn't slow down. It still charged at Risfar. Oh no, he's going to hit our ship. Shoot, shoot. We have to sink them. Our ship is so big. It should be fine, right? Risfar didn't understand, but he didn't sound confident either. Mr. Risfar, they must have explosives on the ship. But at this time, the fishing boat was too close, and the fishing boat was equipped with iron armor. The ship's firepower wasn't weak, but its cannons had medium to long range. It couldn't fire at the nearby fishing boat. The machine gun on the ship fired at the fishing boat's armor, but it didn't have any effect. The fishing boat had been scheming. It had tricked Risfar into crossing the safety line. Mr. Risfar, get down. Risfar's bodyguard suddenly pressed him to the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire ship began to shake. The hull was severely damaged. It started tilting. Just then, a dozen fishing boats appeared around the ship. It was obvious that this was a trap that had been prepared beforehand. The crew on the ship fell into the water. Risfar also struggled on the surface. The people on the fishing boats started shooting at the sea. A life buoy with a rope was thrown in front of Risfar. Then, he was pulled onto one of the boats. Less than 20 minutes later, he was thrown onto the deck. He went from a big boss to a prisoner. Risfar looked up and saw his former partner, Roaman, standing before him. Beside Roaman stood a white man. He clearly wasn't a Somali pirate. Mr. Roaman, what do you think of my plan? Good, very good. Roaman grinned, revealing a mouth full of black teeth. Although Luoaman was dressed like a tribesman, he spoke fluent English. Luoaman looked at Risfar on the deck. Mr. Risfar, this is the second time we've met, right? Roaman, do you know what you're doing? Risfar was furious. Of course I know, Mr. Risfar. I'm short of money recently, so I can only do this. I hope you can understand my difficulties, Luo Aman said proudly. How much do you want? Risfar regretted it at the moment. However, he knew very well that if he didn't pay the price this time, he wouldn't be able to escape. In fact, he might even die here this time. Not much, just 1 billion USD. You won't get the money, Risfar snorted. In the business world, asking for a sky-high price was important, and the same applied to kidnapping and ransom. If he directly agreed to the other party's request, then the other party would feel that he wanted too little. Then he would ask for more money. I believe your family will agree, the white man standing next to Luo Aman said with his hands in his pockets. You're dreaming. Risfar closed his eyes. Crawl, are you sure that guy's family will pay? 1 billion USD. That's not a small amount. Of course, I'm very sure. Does he really have that much money? For a Somali rebel leader like Luo Aman, a few million USD was already a windfall for them. 1 billion USD was an unimaginably astronomical number. Risfar's worth is much more than that, Crawl said. Much more than that. Then can we get more money? Crawl shook his head. Although his worth is much more than that, he doesn't have that much cash unless he sells his assets. That will take a long time. Then we can wait, Luo Aman said. No, we can't wait. Crawl immediately objected firmly. Crawl immediately objected. People like him are too influential and powerful. He can even influence the government. We can't give his forces time to prepare. Once they're ready, it will be very troublesome. After taking the money, we'll kill him. Kill him? Can't we keep extorting him? Luo Aman said with pity. Keep extorting? You're thinking too much. Crawl sneered. Even you have to hide after taking the money. I'm not afraid. I have an army. Army? Can your army defeat the Americans? Crawl looked at the bumpkin in disdain. This guy didn't know when to stop. Crawl didn't want to expose himself. Since the bumpkin was so stupid, he couldn't let him live. Crawl knew very well that if he was exposed, then there would be endless trouble. Risfar's family wouldn't just let him go. Although Crawl was a professional mercenary, Risfar's family would definitely hire mini killers and mercenaries. The number would be unimaginable. Crawl would be hunted for the rest of his life. No matter how capable Crawl was, he didn't want to face such a life. Luo Aman was naive enough to think that he could do whatever he wanted with an army. He didn't understand how terrifying capitalists were. After the fishing boat docked, Risfar was dragged ashore. Then he was thrown into a smelly dungeon. Risfar knew very well that he wouldn't be able to survive this time. He was too confident. He thought that with enough force, he could protect himself even in Somalia. He didn't expect that Luo Aman would prepare a trap for him. Just then, the door to the dungeon opened again. Luo Aman and Crawl walked in. 2 other people came with them. They aimed their cameras at Risfar. Risfar immediately understood their intention. They wanted to film him being kidnapped and send it to Lola. This made Risfar very angry. But his anger was of no use. He couldn't do anything. Crawl threw a piece of paper to Risfar and asked him to read it. Risfar was obviously unwilling. But then there was a series of punches and kicks. Risfar quickly gave in and compromised. These people were very heavy-handed. They beat Risfar until he curled up on the ground. The footage they filmed was even more cruel and bloody. Mr. Risfar, look. If you cooperate with us obediently, you won't have to suffer like this. Chapter 1911. Chun, something happened. Laura ran to Minghua Villa in a panic. What happened? Chen Zhao saw Laura running over in a hurry. Didn't he say he was going on a business trip today? However, when Laura saw Ronnie and Vera, she forced herself to control her emotions. Didi, take your sister outside to play, Chen Zhao said. After the children all left, Laura gave Chen Zhao her phone. It was a video. The more Chen Zhao watched, the more serious his expression became. What's going on? Johnny's in trouble. He went to Somalia and was kidnapped by the local rebels. Laura was at a loss. Chen, do you have cash? Johnny and I only have 200 million in our accounts. Yes. Chen Zhao nodded and picked up the phone. Andrews, help me transfer all the cash in my account. How much cash do I have? Hearing Andrews' answer, Chen Zhao nodded. At the same time he said to Laura, Laura, don't worry. I have 600 million in my account. I'll find someone to borrow some more. Chun, I'll go find someone myself. It's okay. My friend has cash, Chun Zhao said, shaking his head. Okay. Laura, rest here. I'll go find my friend. Thank you, Chun. Chun Zhao called Fei Lai first, telling her to put down her work and come back to accompany Laura. Hearing the situation, Fei Lai immediately rushed back from the coastal rescue team. Laura, don't worry. Chun knows a lot of friends. It'll be fine. Fei Lai immediately went to Laura and comforted her. Laura actually wanted to believe Fei Lai, but she also knew that Fei Lai's words were mostly to comfort her. To Laura, it wasn't the time to think about money. Instead, she was thinking about whether Risfar could come back alive. Laura, do you know the information about the person who kidnapped Johnny? The more detailed, the better. I only know that his name is Roaman, a rebel leader in Malka. He has more than 10,000 people under him. Laura looked at Chun Zhao worriedly. Chun, is this enough? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. Fei Lai, stay with Laura. I'm going out. Okay. Fei Lai nodded understandingly. Mr. Graves, can I ask you something? Graves was surprised to receive Chun Zhao's call. Mr. Chun, did the 2 bodyguards I arranged make a mistake? Glavers thought that something had happened to the 2 bodyguards, which was why Chun Zhao had called to question them. No, I wanted to ask if you have any intelligence on Somalia. What would you like to know, Mr. Chun? Glavers asked. A rebel leader called Roaman. The more details, the better. Mr. Chun, I run a security company. Although I have my own contacts in intelligence, I can't guarantee anything. $10 million. I don't care how much you give to your network. I want an answer in 30 minutes. I want all the information about this rebel leader named Roaman. Alright, I'll find out all the information about this guy in 30 minutes. As soon as Glavers hung up, he received a message from his bank. $10 million had been added to his account. Glavers didn't know why Chun Zhao was looking for this rebel leader called Roaman. However, he could feel the coldness in Chun Zhao's tone. Half an hour later, Glavers called Chun Zhao again. Mr. Chun, did you receive the message I sent you? Yes, I got it. Chun Zhao saw that the information was quite comprehensive and was quite satisfied. Mr. Chun, if you need, I can help you get rid of this guy. Of course, the price will be good. Thanks, but no need, Chun Zhao said indifferently. Glavers was a bit disappointed. Chun Zhao had actually spent $10 million on intelligence. If he hired them, wouldn't it be even more? Unfortunately, Chun Zhao didn't choose them. If there was one place in the world that was wild, it would be Somalia. There was no other place in the world that was as wild and chaotic as Somalia. There were no rules here. No one was absolutely safe. Even the Middle East was like heaven compared to Somalia. Government troops, rebels, warlords, criminal organizations, pirates, mercenaries, and even killers formed a terrifying and chaotic zone here. Here, kids as young as 7 or 8 would attack people with weapons. Perhaps this 7 or 8-year-old child had killed more people than anyone else. At night, the gunshots wouldn't stop. Every now and then there would be gunshots. After a while, it would fall silent again. This was the norm here. Chun Zhao arrived at Marca, Somalia. There were broken walls everywhere. The buildings were very old. After the war, they became even more dilapidated. Chun Zhao seemed to have entered a Chinese village in the 1970s. Marca used to be an important city in Somalia. It had a certain industrial base, but the civil war had destroyed everything here. There weren't even 100,000 people in Marca now. More than half of them were related to the rebels. There were fortresses and pillboxes everywhere. There were traces of war everywhere. While Chun Zhao was strolling around, 2 black men stopped him and interrogated him in Somali. Their muzzles were almost at Chun Zhao's head. Chun Zhao raised his arms, his expression fearless. He allowed the 2 of them to search his body. Do you speak English? Chun Zhao asked. These 2 black men were complete foot soldiers. How could they understand English? They didn't understand English, but they knew that Chun Zhao was speaking it. When they didn't find anything, they pushed Chun Zhao, cursing. They seemed to want to take Chun Zhao somewhere. Just then, a white man suddenly appeared. When he saw Chun Zhao, he was clearly stunned. Asian. Hey, hi. You speak English, right? Chun Zhao was surprised. Kral glanced at Chun Zhao. He thought that Chun Zhao saw him as his savior. Do you know where Risfar is now? Kral was about to leave. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, he suddenly stopped. Who are you? Kral stared at Chen Zhao. I was sent by Mr. Risfar's family to negotiate with Roaman, Chen Zhao said seriously. What do you want to talk about? Mr. Roaman already gave us his conditions, Kral said. Your only choice now is to accept our conditions. Chapter 1912. I need to at least confirm if Mr. Risfar is alive, Chen Zhao said. Otherwise, why would I give you the money? Kral thought for a moment. Then he spoke to the two men in Somali. Then he brought Chen Zhao to the dungeon. Outside the dungeon, Chen Zhao was searched again. They were clearly worried that Chen Zhao had some kind of tracking device on him. Of course, reality proved that they were worried for nothing. Chen Zhao didn't have anything on him. The man who searched Chen Zhao wanted to take his ring. However, he couldn't take it off even after trying for a long time. Kral and his men checked Chen Zhao's body with equipment again. Just then Luo Aman arrived. Chen Zhao had seen Luo Aman's information, including his photo. He knew that the last man was Luo Aman. Is this Asian here to pay the ransom? Yes. Kral nodded. What about the money? He needs to confirm if Risfar is still alive. Is he okay? No, I checked him. There's nothing wrong with him. Then hurry up. Let him take a look at Risfar, and then take the money. Then Chen Zhao was pushed into the dungeon. In the dim dungeon, Chen Zhao saw Risfar lying on the ground, covered in wounds. Risfar. Chen Zhao immediately went up to check his injuries. Risfar slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Chen Zhao, his face was filled with shock. Risfar propped himself up with difficulty. Chen, why are you here? To take you home. What nonsense are you talking about? You shouldn't be here. Don't worry. Wait here. I'll go out and talk to them. I think they'll agree to my request. Chen Zhao patted Risfar's shoulder. Chen, those people can't communicate with words at all, Risfar said worriedly. Find a chance to leave. Don't worry, Chen Zhao said with a smile. I didn't plan on communicating with them in the first place. Bang, bang. At this moment, the mercenary standing outside the door knocked on the metal door heavily. Time's up. Come out now. Chen Zhao gave Risfar a look and walked to the door. The moment the metal door closed, Risfar, who was in the dungeon, suddenly heard a scream from outside. After calming down, Risfar could tell that it wasn't Chen Zhao's voice. Moreover, he knew that Chen Zhao was very skilled. Did Chen Zhao want to kill their way out of here with just one person? But was that even possible? The people outside the passageway also heard the screams coming from inside. Kral's expression changed. The person he'd sent to follow Chen Zhao didn't come out. One of Chen Zhao's hands was stained with blood. He immediately raised his gun and pointed it at Chen Zhao. Bang bang, Clower fired without hesitation. Chen Zhao moved his body twice and Kral's 2 shots missed. Kral was stunned. Smiling, Chen Zhao took out a grenade and pulled the ring. Kral's expression changed drastically, and he immediately flew to the side of the aisle. Chen Zhao had already thrown the grenade out. Bang! Both Kral and Roaman ran out of the room and called for their men to rush in. Meanwhile, Risfar, who was in the dungeon, fell into a state of panic because intense gunshots and explosions could be heard everywhere outside. After Chen Zhao had left, the gunshots and explosions hadn't stopped. Kral and Roaman didn't know what to do. They realized that the Asian couldn't be killed at all. In the beginning, their men could still rush into the building. However, after they entered the building, all they heard were miserable screams. Then they never came out again. Eventually, no one was willing to go in anymore. Just because they didn't go in didn't mean that the person wouldn't come out. Then, miserable screams rang out beside them. 1, 2, 3, for 10, 20, 100, Kral, hurry up and think of something. Aren't you an elite mercenary? Roaman yelled at Kral, somewhat terrified. Kral wanted to solve the problem, but he didn't know how. His men weren't good at direct conflict. He was best at planning behind the scenes. For example, this time, it was through a series of traps that he managed to kidnap a billionaire. Now he was facing a terrifying murderer. He'd completely lost his sense of propriety and thought. No matter how many people came, they couldn't kill the man. Seeing that Kral didn't know what to do, Roaman could only keep calling for his army. Just then, a tank entered the battlefield. Boom! The tank fired into the darkness. However, the tank's shell didn't hurt him. Instead, it helped Chen Zhao get rid of the minions around him. Chen Zhao went over and dismantled the tank. Soon, Crawl and Roaman realized that they couldn't understand the situation on the battlefield. Many times, the situation on the battlefield was beyond what humans should be capable of. For example, the tank had been cut open for no reason. Gradually, they vaguely realized, maybe it wasn't humans who were fighting them. To be honest, killing was the most boring thing. Chen Zhao couldn't understand people who were addicted to killing. At least, the process wasn't interesting. The rebels weren't actually all bad people. Most of the time, they were forced to join the rebels and participate in this immoral war. More and more rebels chose to escape. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't let the main culprit escape. After half an hour of madness, the entire marca fell into silence. Roaman and Crawl were curled up in a low bungalow. They thought that they could escape the butcher this way. But the moment the door was pushed open, they fell into despair. They had guns to kill. Their guns were all aimed at the man at the door. Chen Zhao stood at the door. "Do you think that thing in your hands is really trying to kill me?" At that moment, Roaman opened fire. But Chen Zhao reached out and pinched the bullet. This action made them completely lose the will to fight. They finally realized that the person before them really wasn't human. At least humans couldn't catch bullets. Seeing them put down their guns, Chen Zhao finally smiled. "Good. It seems like you finally understand your situation. How much money did Risfar give you? I can give you double, no triple." No. You can work with us. We can extort more money from him," Roaman said excitedly. Chapter 1913. Just then, Chen Zhao suddenly heard strange cries from the forest. Unusual lights seemed to appear in the forest. They were like the eyes of a pack of beasts. But there weren't many beasts that moved in groups in the forests of Africa. Mountain gorillas were one. And there were also mountain wolves. But mountain gorillas would never approach human settlements. Mountain gorillas might look big and burly. In reality, they were all very timid and smart. They knew the dangers of humans. As for the wolf pack, it was even more unlikely for them to get close to human settlements, because wolves decided their range and number of packs based on the amount of food they had. The closer they were to human settlements, the less food there was. Perhaps 1 or 2 mountain wolves would occasionally approach a human village, but it was impossible for the entire pack to approach. Moreover, there weren't just a dozen pairs of eyes in the forest, but hundreds. The owner of those eyes let out a low and hoarse voice. Luoaman suddenly shivered. He seemed to know what it was. "Spirit beast. Spirit beast. It's a spirit beast." Luoaman cried out in terror. Just then, a long howl came from the forest. The howl was loud and clear, echoing in the forest. At that moment, the few rebel soldiers who had escaped earlier ran back in panic. They weren't afraid of Chen Zhao anymore. They passed by Chen Zhao, shouting as they ran. Chen Zhao didn't care about them. Instead, he kept looking forward. Just then, a rebel in front of Chen Zhao was suddenly pounced on by something. At first, Chen Zhao didn't see anything. But with a flash of light, a translucent beast more than 3 meters long appeared on the rebel's body. It wasn't a wolf, lion, or leopard, but it was very big and ferocious. It tore at the rebel who'd been pounced on. In just 2 or 3 moves, the rebel soldier had been bitten into a bloody mess. "Run! Run! That's a spirit beast!" Luoaman cried out in terror. Large numbers of spirit beasts charged down from the forest. Very soon, the entire marca was affected. Oh no! Chen Zhao suddenly realized that Risfar was still in the dungeon. If such a monster charged into the dungeon, Risfar would definitely die. Chen Zhao didn't care about Luoaman and Clower anymore. He turned and charged toward the dungeon. Bang! Suddenly, the iron door of the dungeon let out a heavy banging sound. Risfar was shocked. Was Chen Zhao outside? Risfar was hesitant. After Chen Zhao left, the metal door wasn't completely closed. However, Risfar still locked the door from the inside. Risfar looked through the hole in the iron door. It was pitch black outside, and nothing could be seen. Risfar looked down at the bolt. He hesitated whether or not to open the door. "Chen, is that you?" There was no response from outside. Risfar gulped and hesitantly reached out to pull the latch. At this moment, a sharp scratching sound came from the iron gate. Risfar then saw the claw marks of some creature on the iron door. The iron door was scratched into a horrifying mark. Risfar was so frightened that he quickly retreated. There seemed to be something looking in through the scratches on the iron door. Bang! The iron door was sent flying. Risfar lowered his head in fear. The metal door slid past Risfar's scalp and stabbed into the wall behind him. Then Risfar felt something pounce on him. He clearly didn't see anything, but his body felt like it had been hit by a car. Then he saw a huge creature on top of him. The creature's body appeared slowly. Risfar didn't know what it was, but he knew that it was definitely a carnivore. Now he was probably on the carnivore's menu. And now, he was likely to be on the menu of this carnivore. Then he saw the carnivore being pulled away from him. Chun Zhao pulled the spirit beast out of Risfar's body. Then it smashed heavily into the wall. The spirit beast smashed into the wall, and immediately turned into a glowing cloud of dust. Then it gathered again, and returned to its beast form. Risfar felt as if he had just stepped through the gates of hell. Risfar panted heavily. He was frightened, really frightened. He had never experienced something so terrifying. The spirit beast pounced at Risfar again. It seemed that it also bullied the weak and feared the strong. It knew that Chun Zhao wasn't easy to deal with. But Chun Zhao lifted his leg, and swept it horizontally. The spirit beast was sent flying. However, it once again turned into dust, and returned to its original state. Chun Zhao grinned. Risfar grabbed the corner of Chun Zhao's shirt. "Chun, can you handle it?" When the spirit beast pounced at him again, Chun Zhao added force to his fist. Bang! Chun Zhao pierced through the spirit beast's body. This time, it didn't turn into dust. Its body gradually returned to its original state. At the same time, the place Chun Zhao had pierced started bleeding. Chun Zhao twisted his neck, and looked back at Risfar. "Let's go." Risfar gulped. "Will it be okay outside?" "You'll be fine as long as you don't run away." When Risfar followed Chun Zhao out, he saw that the outside had become a hell of flesh and blood. Broken limbs were everywhere. Some were done by Chun Zhao, but most were done by the spirit beasts. These spirit beasts were like a sumptuous dinner. Chun Zhao and Risfar saw Luoaman. A spirit beast had pounced on him. The spirit beast didn't kill him directly. Instead, it was gnawing on his arm. Luoaman was howling, "Save me! Save me! Mr. Risfar! Save me!" Chun Zhao looked back at Risfar. "How was it? Did you vent your anger?" Risfar's body was a bit stiff. He didn't care about Roman's life or death. But there were so many spirit beasts around. He wasn't sure if Chun Zhao could handle it. "Chun, are you sure you can handle it?" Risfar asked uncertainly. "If you can't, you can leave first." "I'll hide in that dungeon. I crossed the North Atlantic to save you. Do you think I'll give up on you now?" "You crossed the North Atlantic? How did you do it? Are you touched?" Chun Zhao grinned. "I'm not in the mood to joke with you." "Okay, I won't joke anymore. Let's deal with these problems first." Chun Zhao stretched his arms and legs. "I warmed up just now. We can officially start now." To Chun Zhao, the battle with the rebels was just a warm-up. These spirit beasts were the real battle. Chapter 1914. Careful. Suddenly, a spirit beast attacked from behind. Chun Zhao suddenly disappeared from Risfar's sight. The next moment he kicked the spirit beast's soul away. "Do you have a cigarette?" Chun Zhao felt that he should light one, and take a long drag. Risfar glanced at Chun Zhao. "There are still many things around. It's not the time to relax yet." "It's not a big problem." The spirit beasts all stopped eating, and turned to look at Chun Zhao. The intelligence of these spirit beasts wasn't low. They could even understand the human language. Chun Zhao's arrogant and disdainful attitude had clearly angered them. All the spirit beasts attacked Chun Zhao at the same time. Chun Zhao casually smashed a spirit beast. Then he kicked another one to death. In the blink of an eye, he killed two. Apart from invisibility and turning into dust, these spirit beasts didn't have any special abilities. They were also very poor at attacking. They could only use physical attacks. Each individual's combat power could barely compare to an adult lion. But this level of power wasn't enough to defeat Chun Zhao. It couldn't even be considered a threat. Risfar suddenly realized that he didn't know Chen Zhao at all. If it weren't for this crisis, Chen Zhao would probably never have revealed his true abilities before him. He watched as Chen Zhao continuously slaughtered the spirit beasts before him. Risfar had a strange feeling, and a bit of anger. Chen Zhao actually hid so many secrets from him. Soon more than 10 spirit beasts were killed. Although it was only 1%, the other spirit beasts seemed to have discovered Chen Zhao's combat power. Just then, a loud howl came from the back of the spirit beast horde. The other spirit beasts started retreating one after another. They retreated just like that. Chen Zhao had originally planned to fight for a long time. He didn't think that they'd retreat after killing only a dozen spirit beasts. Chen Zhao was quite disappointed. After all, he hadn't completed the battle he wanted. But this wasn't a bad thing. After all, Risfar was beside him. In such a chaotic situation, it was difficult for Chen Zhao to protect Risfar and fight at the same time. Their retreat wasn't a bad thing for Risfar. However, the spirit beasts had also taken away many corpses. They'd attacked Marca and killed at least 1,000 rebels. Was this the spiritual world of the African continent? It was completely different from the spiritual world in Europe, Asia, and North America. The African continent was not only human society, but it was also in a semi-barbaric era. Even the spirit world was still in a primitive age. There were actually so many magical beasts here. This spirit beast was definitely a type of magical beast. Although Roaman called them spirit beasts. However, they were living creatures, not ghosts or hell creatures. However, in this continent where human society was not developed, there were still a lot of natural scenery. That was why there were so many natural magical beasts. Moreover, these spirit beasts didn't appear out of nowhere. They must have resided in this forest for a long time. That was why the locals were so familiar with them. The battle between Chen Zhao and the rebels was probably the trigger that triggered their appearance. Risfar felt like he was on a roller coaster. Chen Zhao appeared, disappeared, and reappeared again. He saw the spirit beast horde again. In the end, the spirit beast horde retreated. Risfar had never experienced such ups and downs. As the spirit beasts retreated, Risfar finally felt the joy of surviving a calamity. Chen, what should we do now? Go to the beach. I contacted a group of pirates. Pirates? Risfar shuddered. You know pirates? They're a bunch of immoral bastards. Okay, I'm different from you. The pirates I know are different from the pirates you know too. Don't compare us. What's the difference? At least I won't be kidnapped. I'm a victim. Can you give me some warmth? Laura borrowed money from me earlier, and I transferred $600 million to her. Transfer it back to me later. Fuck you. Risfar gradually calmed down. He was even more grateful to Chen Zhao. When he was in the most danger, Chen Zhao had come all the way here. Then, he'd come to save him despite the danger. Before leaving, Chen Zhao had contacted Guret. When they arrived at the beach, Guret's people were already waiting there. Chen, are you sure they won't treat me as a hostage again? They wouldn't dare, Chen Zhao said. Oh, call Laura first. Chen Zhao handed a satellite phone to Risfar. But don't tell them what just happened. Risfar nodded. He respected Chen Zhao's request. Since Chen Zhao wasn't willing, he'd let him. Hey Laura, it's me, Risfar said. I'm fine. Chen's friend saved me. Johnny, is that you? Is it really you? Laura's face was filled with disbelief. She asked Risfar over the phone. Johnny, how did you get saved? Don't ask about the details. Anyway, I should thank Chen the most. If not for him, I'd probably have died here. Risfar was truly grateful. Laura realized that Chen Zhao had gone out for a few hours. There was no reply. She didn't expect that it would only be a few hours. Chen Zhao had actually saved Risfar. Risfar and Laura chatted for a long time, before hanging up reluctantly. Oh Johnny, do you know where your ship is now? Risfar looked at Chen Zhao, and then at the people on the pirate ship. Can your friends help? I only asked them to send you back. They don't care about anything else. Then what do we do? Did you forget me? It's just a ship. I don't want you to take the risk. It's not a risk for me. All right, the location should be 300 kilometers southeast of Mogadishu. Got it. Chen Zhao nodded and dove into the water. Laura, don't worry. Johnny's safe. I'm still worried that he's not back yet. Then let's go get him. Get him? Laura looked at Feilai confused. Drive our ship out to sea, Feilai said. Are you sure? Of course. Will that work? Why not? Feilai said matter-of-factly. All right then. Laura was also very anxious at this moment. After all, Risfar had just been kidnapped, even though he'd just reported that he was safe. As long as she didn't see him, Laura couldn't be at ease. Chapter 1915. In the latter half of the night, Chen Zhao suddenly emerged from the water and climbed onto the boat. When Risfar saw Chen Zhao emerge from the sea, he was shocked. Chen, where did you go? I helped you deal with the hijacked ship, Chen Zhao said. Stop joking. This place is at least 1,000 kilometers away from the hijacked ship. You can't swim that far. Even if you can, you don't have that much time. It'll only take you an hour to go back and forth. So you don't know me well enough. Know me? Risfar suddenly remembered that Chen Zhao's appearance here didn't make sense. Logically speaking, he hadn't been kidnapped for more than 8 hours. It would take 15 hours to get from America to Somalia, crossing the North Atlantic Ocean, then the Gulf of Aden, and the Red Sea was almost half the distance of the world. Then, he would have to drive from Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, to Malka. It would take more than 10 hours. It could be said that it would take at least a day and a half to reach Marca, if there were no accidents along the way. But Chen Zhao appeared in Malka that night. This wasn't normal. Moreover, Chen Zhao had charged in alone. Especially in the end, when Chen Zhao had fought against the spirits. Chen Zhao's various abilities in battle all proved that he wasn't a normal person. Risfar suddenly remembered. After their hotel had opened, Del had been acting strangely. He would occasionally do something strange. For example, he hung a Chinese 8 trigrams mirror in his office. He even had to get a strange potted plant in Risfar's office. He said it was a Chinese custom to attract wealth and treasures. Did Del know already? Risfar asked. No, he didn't just know. We're the same kind of people, Chen Zhao said. What? You're saying Del is as powerful as you? Of course, he can't cross half the world in a short time. Chen Zhao shrugged. People like us are spiritualists. Del is one of us. I'm very angry now, even angrier than when I was kidnapped. I'm actually the last person to know about this, Risfar said angrily. If this didn't happen, how long were you planning to hide it from me? Forever. I won't forgive you and Del. Risfar was even angrier. Unless you teach me to. I can't teach you, but Del has a master. You can try your luck with her, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Of course, I can't promise you that you have the talent. Del and you can do it. I'm sure I can too. Risfar looked at him. Are all spiritualists the same? It's different. Every spiritualist has different attributes and magic. What's your magic? My magic system is rather complicated. Anyway, I'm developing in the direction of Superman in the movie's strength. I thought it was swimming. Risfar was very curious about this strange supernatural world. He kept asking for all sorts of information about the spirit world. Risfar asked again, did you swim across a distance of more than 10,000 kilometers? Just then, Chen Zhao's feet left the deck. Fly. Fly. Risfar's eyes widened as he held Chen Zhao's feet. You can fly. Chen Zhao nodded. I will. Then why don't you fly me back? Of course. Unless you want to be crushed to death by the high-pressure airflow. Chen Zhao could bring Didi around the world, but it didn't mean that he could bring Risfar. Didi was a spiritualist herself. She'd also put on all sorts of equipment before leaving. With Chen Zhao's protection, she could passively resist the high-pressure airflow. But Risfar was different. He was just a normal person. Chen Zhao could either fly slowly with Risfar, or let him die in the air. This ship is too slow. When we go around Africa and reach the Atlantic Ocean, I'll have Amon send you, Chen Zhao said. Amon? You didn't forget Amon, right? Of course I remember Amon. Oh, Amon isn't a normal killer whale, right? If you see Amon now, you'll definitely be shocked. It's not like I haven't seen Amon before, Risfar said in disdain. At most he's a bit bigger. He felt that his willpower had been thoroughly tempered. No matter what happened, he wouldn't be affected. After a 48-hour journey, the pirate ship released Chen Zhao and Risfar into the sea. The pirates on the ship were confused too. After all, they weren't familiar with Chunjiao. But Chunjiao got off the ship in the vast ocean. This place was thousands of kilometers away from the nearest land. They really didn't understand why Chunjiao and Risfar would get off here. Risfar and Chunjiao were soaking in the water. Are you sure Amon is nearby? Risfar asked worriedly. Yes, he's here. As soon as Chunjiao said that, Risfar suddenly realized that a huge shadow was looming over from the sea. Then he felt like he was stepping on something. Gradually, Risfar realized that he could stand up. He felt like he was stepping on land. Moreover, this piece of land was still floating up. Amon? Risfar was shocked. Soon, Amon floated to the surface with Chunjiao and Risfar on his back. Although Amon was not completely exposed to sleep, but Risfar still saw Amon's huge and illogical form. Is this Amon? Risfar was dumbfounded. Amon was really too big. He was more than 100 meters long, and had many bone spikes on his body. He also had a pair of huge wings. From his form, one could still tell that Amon was originally a killer whale. But Risfar still couldn't calm down. Too big. Amon was really too big. He was unbelievably big. See, I told you that you'd find it unbelievable. Is this really Amon? What kind is he? Chunjiao wouldn't tell Risfar about Amon's true identity. Risfar kept patting Amon's back, trying to talk to him. Amon was really fast. Chunjiao was also controlling the water to speed up. This greatly shortened their journey time. Amon's appearance made Risfar even more curious about everything in the spiritual world, until the Hydra appeared in their field of vision. Chapter 1916. 3 days. Risfar had been on the sea for almost 3 days. When he boarded the Hydra, he hugged Lola excitedly. Lola had too many questions to ask Risfar. Of course, right now she only wanted slap. Lola gave Risfar a hard slap on the face. She was angry that Risfar had gone to Somalia despite the danger. On the other hand, Chunjiao looked at Risfar gloatingly. Risfar was helpless. What could he say? Chun, how come you're with Risfar too? I got lost on the sea. Chunjiao grinned at Risfar. Risfar rolled his eyes. Lola glanced at Chunjiao and didn't continue asking. She felt that she could ask Risfar later. All the children were here. This time, Lola was here to welcome Risfar. But to the children, this was a chance to go on a vacation. The children didn't know what had happened to Risfar. Of course, the adults wouldn't tell them what had happened to Risfar. Other than the beating, Risfar didn't have any other side effects. Risfar had wanted Chunjiao to help treat him, but Lola stopped Chunjiao. She wanted Risfar to endure the pain for a few more days. That way, she would remember this lesson. Chunjiao and Feilai just watched the show. After picking up Risfar, the Hydra toured the sea for another 2 days. If Risfar and Lola didn't have to go back to clean up the mess, they probably wouldn't have left. Both of them were busy people. They might not even have a few days of vacation in a year. If not for this accident, they probably wouldn't even have time to rest. When they returned to Mingyue Villa, Risfar and Lola hurriedly said goodbye. But they still left the children at Mingyue Villa. Bang! Del, you asterisk shoal. Del put down the phone and looked at Risfar in shock. Fuck, Lola said something happened to you. I've been trying to see if I can save you. Why did you come back yourself? And why are you scolding me as soon as you come back? Did I offend you? Chun saved me. Risfar stared at Chunjiao angrily. Are you blaming me for not helping? Del looked at Risfar confused. No. I'm angry that you and Chun hid it from me. You're both spiritualists, but I'm the last to know. Ah, do you understand? Chun said you have a master. Introduce him to me and I'll forgive you. You've seen it too. When have I seen him before? Last time, when my master carried Faith, you blamed me for letting a stranger carry Faith. That woman is your master? Of course, Chun introduced it to me. Then quickly introduce him to me. I can introduce him to you. But I can't guarantee that master will accept you as his student. If that lady can accept you as her disciple, then I have no problem with it. That's not necessarily the case. The only reason I was able to gain master's favor was because of Faith's talent. I'm still basking in Faith's light, which proves that our family's bloodline is excellent. Risfar rolled his eyes. Faith isn't your biological daughter. It doesn't matter if she's my biological daughter or not. Faith is my daughter, so she's part of my family. A while later, Li Qing arrived at the hotel. Master, this is Risfar. You've met him, right? Hello, Mr. Risfar. No. After all, Risfar was asking for help, so he didn't dare to be disrespectful. Master, Johnny wants to be your disciple too. Li Qing looked at Risfar in surprise. Mr. Risfar, you know about the spiritual world? I just found out not long ago. Li Qing glanced at Dell. You told him? No. Chen told him. I see. Li Qing looked at Risfar. Mr. Risfar, if Dell's talent is bad, then you have no talent at all. So you can't learn any of our spells. I can't learn any. Yes. Master, is there no other way? Yes. Some secret spells can let people who can't learn magic have magic power, but they have to pay a huge price. Does it cost money? Risfar asked. No, there aren't any spells that directly require money. However, those that can be called secret spells often require the sacrifice of some lives, or even one's own family. Risfar was shocked. Then I'd better not learn it. That's a wise choice. Li Qing nodded. Serengeti, the starting point of humans. According to archaeologists, the savanna of Serengeti was the origin of modern humans. Whether it was Asians or Europeans, they all came from here. Now, the supernatural organization had settled down in a temporary base in the savanna. This temporary foothold was established by the African Paranormal Alliance. It was specially for spiritualists who came here. However, the conditions of this base were somewhat poor. It only provided water and electricity every day. There were also some stalls on the streets. Other than providing some small businesses for the natives, it also provided spiritualists. Some spiritualists even started businesses here, selling magic tools or magic materials. Sorry, sir. Please don't throw trash randomly. This is a protected area. When an elite was walking on the street, he casually threw a cigarette butt, and a woman grabbed his arm. Everyone subconsciously took a few steps back and looked at an elite in disgust. Angelite's face twitched. Sorry. As he spoke, an elite picked up the cigarette butt. Where are you from? North America, an elite answered. Us too, but we don't know him very well. West cut off his relationship with an elite. Gritting his teeth, an elite stared at West and the others. North America? The woman's eyes were already filled with disdain. Go and register your information. It's at the registration counter over there. Register? Why do we have to register? Recently, the spiritualists who come here often go missing or get killed. Hence, in order to ensure the safety of every spiritualist who comes to help, as well as to have a clearer understanding of every spiritualist's actions, every spiritualist who comes here now has to register. Have there been battles here all this time? There have been 2 large-scale battles, the woman said. The last one was the most intense. At least 20 spiritualists died. Miss, you are? Jiutian Shenhuang. Chapter 1917. When the woman heard West's question, her eyes clearly drifted. With a condescending look she said, Northern Europe, the Holy Council. West had heard of the Holy Council in Northern Europe. The Holy Council wasn't a top-tier supernatural organization, but it had a certain reputation. It was like the soccer players in England and Spain. Even in second-tier leagues, they felt that their standards were higher than in China. Of course, that was the truth. They were indeed very skilled. That was undeniable. The North American supernatural world was basically the same. Even the second-tier or even third-tier organizations, or sects in Europe and Asia, their standards were still higher than North America's supernatural world. The Holy Council's reputation wasn't because of their glorious deeds. It was because they were mortal enemies of the Scarlet Church. Of course, the current supernatural world wasn't like the past, where one side would fight to the death. Most of the time, mortal enemies wouldn't kill each other for no reason. Most of the time, they competed over certain things, which were battles of words. For example, if there was a competition in the supernatural world, the 2 sides might not perform the best. But once they met, they would go all out in the arena. Or if one side did something, the other side had to do it. Of course, in the past 100 years, the Scarlet Church had produced a 23rd generation Blood Mary. That was why the Scarlet Church had always suppressed the Holy Council. When Sivir looked at West and the others, she did look down on them. How barren was North America's supernatural world. Most of the time, one or two evil spirits could cause a ruckus, because no one was there to deal with it. If they were in other areas, if an evil spirit dared to cause trouble, they would definitely be dealt with properly. I'll take you there, Sivir said. In this temporary settlement, half of the people were spiritualists. The other half had interacted with spiritualists before. So here, everyone was familiar with the supernatural world and magic. The registration process was simple. Basically, everyone just had to state their identity and the organization they belonged to. But West felt that the registrants seemed to be on guard against something. West led the group out of the simple registration office. Sivir was still by his side. You better not wander around at night. Why? It's not absolutely safe here. Are you saying that other people will harm us? West asked. Do you know why we are gathered here? Protect Poison Dragon, the guardian of the grassland, West said. That's right. The ones who attacked the poisonous dragon were not only unclean creatures, but also a group of unclean humans. They worship evil gods. They think that as long as they kill the poisonous dragon, they can destroy the balance of nature. Sivir said. So, not only do we have to fight against the unclean creatures, but we also have to fight against our own kind hidden among us. Sylvie paused for a moment before continuing. In the past, most of the missing people were attacked by humans. So this registration is also to distinguish between friend and foe? Sivir nodded. Yes. Then are we under suspicion? Your passports have minimized your suspicions, Sivir said. Looks like we're in luck, West said with a smile. I live in a small house to the north of the settlement. If you have any trouble, you can come to me, Sivir replied calmly. Sivir turned around and left. Come on, let's go to our place. Mr. West, where are we staying? By the river, West said. There are some houses there. I paid some money just now, so the person in charge arranged a nice house for us. When they found a place to stay, they found that it was indeed nice. Other than the crocodiles in the river, there were no obvious flaws. As for the crocodiles' activities, it was not a problem for them. Although the houses here were all made of wood, the style was not bad. They also had some electrical equipment. They did not have to live like primitive people. West said he paid some money, but it was not a small amount. At least the money was enough to build these wooden houses. Otherwise, they would not have been assigned such a nice house. The houses by the river were in a row. 80% of them were occupied by the supernatural organization. After a few days of traveling, they could finally rest. However, before they could pack their luggage, they heard a noise outside. Come out. I want to see who dares to live in a place I like. Curses came from outside. The voice was very arrogant. Everyone in the supernatural organization heard it. One by one, they came out of their rooms. When they came out, they immediately saw an old acquaintance. When this old acquaintance saw the people from the supernatural organization, he felt as if his throat was choked by a hand. His voice was stuck in his throat. This person was none other than the person they had met in the Norwegian forest during their last mission. He was the person in charge of the Holy Flame sect in Norway, Magori Modric. Magori Modric opened his mouth. His face was filled with stiffness and awkwardness. He never would have thought that he would meet someone from the supernatural organization in the Serengeti Plains that was tens of thousands of miles away. He had escaped death last time. He did not expect to meet people from the supernatural organization again this time. Mr. Magori, what a coincidence. We meet again. West stood in front of the door and squinted at Magori Modric. Jalanash walked over too. A ball of fire gathered in her palm. Mr. Magori, I've mastered the little sun I got from you last time. I can ask you for some pointers. That misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding, Magori Modric hurriedly said. What a joke. If they fought with these people, they would not even know how they died. Last time, he and his men had already suffered. This time, he did not bring as many people as last time. Mainly because they had suffered heavy losses last time. They still did not have enough people. If there was another conflict, even if all his men died, they would not be able to defeat the supernatural organization. Also, in the supernatural organization, the person who had left the deepest impression on Magori was Helios. This guy had killed that lunatic Ribrick. Magori felt that even if Helios was alone, they would not be able to deal with him. At this moment he groaned inwardly. He wanted to turn around and leave. Chapter 1918. Haha. Mr. West, long time no see. Modric laughed loudly to hide his awkwardness. I'm joking with you. I heard that you live here, so I came to catch up with you. West looked at Modric with his hands behind his back. He still had a meaningful smile on his face. Mr. Magri, I heard that there are some evil cultists here. Could it be you? West stared coldly at Magri Modric. Don't joke around. Although our Holy Flame sect's teachings are incompatible with the general public, we are very different from the real evil cultists. Holy Flame sect was now an evil sect, but evil sect and evil cult were two different concepts. Evil sects were the kind where I know I'm a bad person and do bad things. Evil cultists turn twisted logic into truth. I'm a good person. You have to believe in me and my teachings. Like Holy Flame sect, if they were willing, they could even carry out 1 or 2 internal reforms to correct some behaviors that were not tolerated by the secular world and the government. Then, they could become an ordinary organization. The government and the spiritual world wouldn't be so ruthless. Many sects were even examples of turning over a new leaf. But evil cultists couldn't. Their teachings had already determined their identity. Whether it was the government or the people of the spiritual world, there was only one way to deal with evil cultists and evil cultists. Destroy. Destroy from the body to the soul. Modric didn't want to be treated as an evil cultist. Especially in this place, where there were people from the spirit world all around. He and his subordinates combined wouldn't be able to do anything here. Of course, Magri Modric had also registered his presence here, although they were still a little suspicious in the eyes of the person in charge here. But since he could appear so brazenly, it meant that he wasn't afraid of the shadows. You're also here for the protection mission? Wes was curious. Magri Modric was actually participating in this mission. There are benefits. Benefits? Are you talking about the reward for the Scarlet Mission? Although the reward for the Scarlet Mission is great, it's too difficult to get the reward in front of hundreds of spiritualists. Modric shook his head. I'm interested in the gift from the Nature Guardian. Are you talking about Poison Dragon? Can he give a reward? As a Nature Guardian, Poison Dragon has a special power that can bestow some special powers to others. What special power? Not necessarily. Magri Modric shook his head. There are very few people who can obtain this power, and there are certain restrictions. The only thing that is certain is that only those with outstanding performance can obtain this gift. Just then Sivir walked over. She had heard that people from the Sacred Flame sect were nearby, so she had come over to take a look. If the people from the Sacred Flame sect were to cause trouble, she would be able to stop them in time. Due to the Sacred Flame sect's misdeeds in the past, they were the main suspects after arriving here, even though it was unlikely that they were cultists. However, he was still being monitored in secret. Furthermore, the Sacred Flame sect had always been domineering. Sivir felt that if the people of the Sacred Flame sect had a conflict with these people from the North American spiritual world, the Americans would definitely be at a disadvantage. But when she arrived, she found that there was no conflict between them. They seemed to be getting along very well. At the very least, the person in charge of the Sacred Flame sect's team had a pleasant chat with West. Mr. West, do you need any help? Sivir asked. No, I didn't. West shook his head. If you need help, as long as you're in this settlement, you don't have to worry about anything. I promise you that no one will create chaos in front of me. Thank you for your kindness, but we really don't need it. All right then. Seeing that West had no intention of asking her for help, Sivir gave up on being the supernatural organization's protector. West realized that Sivir wasn't very strong, but Magri Modric was very wary of Sivir. Also, Sivir seemed a little nosy. She shouldn't be a staff member here, right? Mr. Muggery, do you know this woman? She is a member of the Holy Council. The Holy Council? It's just a second-rate force. You didn't look so relaxed when you were facing her. West went straight to Magari Modric's sore spot. She's the person chosen by the Nature's Guardian. She can borrow the Guardian's power here and in the surrounding areas. In other words, as long as she doesn't squander her magic power, she can borrow the Guardian's power infinitely. Even if the person she borrows power from is very strong, it will hurt herself if she borrows power that doesn't belong to her too many times. So she can't borrow other people's power infinitely. That's true. But even if she's not really invincible, she still represents the Nature's Guardian. As for a spiritualist trying to attack another spiritualist, the Nature's Guardian appeared. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Muggery. You're welcome. We're friends, aren't we? Modric secretly heaved a sigh of relief. After all, the previous battle had left a deep impression on him. This time, they were competitors too, but Modric still hoped to maintain a good relationship with Chen Zhao. That way, if there was a battle or danger, the people from the supernatural organization might be willing to help them out. Also, the Holy Fire sect wasn't very popular in the residential area. If they were in trouble, others might not take advantage of them, but they would definitely gloat and watch the show. The Sacred Flame sect was in need of a strong and powerful ally here. At the same time, they didn't have anyone that they hated deeply. The supernatural organization had both of these conditions. That was why Modric was willing to tell West and the others about the information he had. I heard that there are some cultists in this residential area, West said. Do you know who they are? I'm not sure who it is exactly. However, when we first arrived here yesterday, someone hinted that he hoped that our Sacred Flame sect could cooperate with them. The other party's words sounded like he was trying to bewitch me. Chapter 1919. Sivir returned to the temporary headquarters. Sivir, why are you back so early today? I didn't have anything to do, so I came back. Sivir sat on the wooden floor. Her roommate, Irene Horton, was the same as her. They were both guardians and managers of order here. Their identities weren't decided by any organization or person. They were given by the Nature Guardian Poison Dragon. They could also borrow the power of Nature Guardians. In this gathering area, there were a total of 6 Order Guardians and 1 manager. They were in charge of maintaining order here and planning every operation and battle. There are more and more spiritualists in the gathering area. Many cultists have snuck in too. The Guardians give us power, but they don't give us the ability to identify cultists. Sivir rubbed her hair. So troublesome. Why did I accept this mission? I didn't see you hesitate when you accepted the Guardian's gift, Irene Horton said calmly. You didn't reject the power for free either. Of course, it was impossible for them to get it for free. They had to give as well. Is this where the group of suspicious people you mentioned lives? The people from the supernatural organization came to a house under Modric's lead. Yes, Modric said. But I can't guarantee that they're cultists. West glanced at them. Who wants to go? I'll do it, Angelit said, stepping forward. They were only suspicious now, so they couldn't all attack. If they got the wrong person, they'd all be chased out later. So if they wanted to attack, one person was the best choice. Even if they were chased out, they'd be chased out alone. Plus, Angelit was the most convenient. After all, he was the fastest. As for how to tell if they were cultists, there wasn't an accurate answer. They could only rely on experience. Angelit nodded at everyone. The next moment, Angelit disappeared before everyone's eyes. Modric was shocked. What a fast speed. If he were to fight Angelit, he would be able to break through his defense in the shortest time possible. Wasn't North America a magic desert? How did this unknown organization have such great power? Furthermore, it wasn't just 1 or 2 of them who were powerful, but all of them. Not everyone was willing to provoke the cultists. Evil cultists were evil cultists. It was because of their anti-human way of thinking. He was ruthless to himself, and even more ruthless to others. In an instant, Angelit had already entered a room. There was no one in the room. However, Angelit started rummaging through their luggage. Soon enough, Angelit found a badge in his luggage. This emblem was carved with 3 ferocious dragon heads. Angelit looked at the badge. 3-headed dragon. What sect is it? Church of Truth. Just then someone entered the room. Angelit narrowed his eyes at the newcomer. The Church of Universal Truth, huh? This is the first time I've met someone who's so cooperative. Truth was what the Church of Truth pursued. But their truth is very different from that of the general public. Their truth is sociopathic, one of the top 10 evil cults in the world. The cultist exuded a dangerous aura and looked at Elite with a sinister gaze. Angelite's pupils suddenly dilated. The next moment, Elite suddenly dodged. A sharp blade slashed through the place where Elite had been standing without any warning. Spatial magic. Elite frowned. He was a spiritualist who specialized in speed, and theoretically, spatial magic was higher than speed. Of course, Elite wouldn't be scared even if he faced a spatial opponent. Even if it was superior magic, in the end, it still required actual combat experience and personal magic power cultivation to rely on. The cultist waved his arm. Elite suddenly sensed danger in front of him. Although there was nothing in front of Elite, he knew that he would be in danger if he took one more step. Spatial magic wasn't just rare. It was also very dangerous and troublesome. Although necromancy was dangerous and strange, most necromancy magic was visible. But spatial magic was mostly invisible. When fighting against spatial enemies, one had to rely on one's senses. There are spatial traps all around you. You'll die if you move again. The cultist stared at Elite coldly. Elite raised his hands decisively. I surrender. The cultist sneered. He didn't believe that Elite would surrender so easily. A lot of sharp blades suddenly shot out from the spatial traps surrounding Elite. Elite was prepared as well. In an instant, Angelite's arms danced in the air. All the sharp blades were caught between his fingers. The next moment, Elite waved his arms. The blades flew back into the spatial traps. Also, when Elite returned the blades, he had filled them with magic power. These spaces themselves were constructed from magic power. Once abnormal magic power appeared, it would directly cause space to become unstable and collapse. Elite broke free in an instant. The cultist felt a pain in his neck. Elite had already grabbed him by the neck. Just then the cultist pressed the alarm. All the cultists who lived nearby swarmed over. You can't escape. The cultist stared at Elite. You're fighting against the world's consciousness, so you're bound to lose. Elite smiled casually. You don't represent the world's consciousness. By then, more cultists had charged into the building. Elite sped up again. His figure was beyond the limits of what the naked eye could see. Elite left a trail of flames behind as he charged. All the cultists in his path collapsed. Elite was too fast. He didn't give the cultists any time to cast their spells. The first cultist had always been in Angelite's grasp. The pressure he endured had also exceeded the limits of human endurance. When Elite stopped again, the cultist in his hand was on the verge of death. See, you lost. Elite had a faint smile on his face. The cultist looked up at Elite. Are you sure we lost? Elite had the cultist firmly in his control. He didn't have a chance to attack. Then show me how you resist. One day you'll understand. The viruses of your world don't understand. Everything is arranged by fate. Even everything you're doing now is part of the plan. Chapter 1920. The battle here had already alarmed more than half of the gathering area. Many people came to watch, but no one interfered. Sivir and Irene Horton pushed through the crowd. When Sivir saw Elite, she recognized him. It's him. Do you know his mom? Irene Horton asked. I brought him and his friends to register. I only know that they're from North America. This person is very strong, at least stronger than most people in the gathering area. Is he really from North America? Irene Horton asked in surprise. It was like a football genius in China. It would cause a sensation. This person is not only strong, but also very experienced. Sivir was also surprised. He could face more than 20 enemies alone and still fight with ease. His enemies weren't weak, but they couldn't do anything to Elite. Sivir frowned and was about to stop the fight. Irene Horton stopped Sivir. Don't go over yet. What's wrong? Sivir asked, confused. Look at the weapons they're holding. The two daggers are strange. They look like ancient daggers. They're used to bleed. Some ancient religions would use these daggers to bleed sacrifices. Sivir raised an eyebrow. There were a few victims a few days ago. They were bled. That's right. Irene Horton nodded. Very few people use this kind of dagger now. Those two looked very familiar with it, as if they had practiced it before. They're cultists, Sivir suddenly realized. Sivir looked in the direction of the supernatural organization. They didn't want to fight either. They were all watching from the side. The battle didn't last long. An elite displayed overwhelming strength and his unparalleled battle experience. Even with his back to the enemy, no one could attack him from behind. An elite clapped his hands and walked to Sivir and Irene Horton. Then he flicked his finger, and a badge he'd found from the cultists landed in Sivir's hand. Sivir's pupils contracted when she saw the badge. Truth. Reason. Sect was a famous evil sect. They found it there. An elite, on the other hand, strolled back to the team in a carefree manner. The records in the Heroic Spirits notebook are not bad, West said. The reason they attacked the cultists was for the merit points. There are a few unfriendly gazes, Helios said. Looks like there are still fish that escaped the net, an elite said. These cultists seem to be planning something. Grandpa, I'm already at your door. Sandnell called Stephen. Wait, you're in front of my house? Stephen suddenly realized. Yeah, what's wrong? I'm not at home now. I'm at the company, Stephen said quickly. It's okay. I have the key to your house, Sandnell said. Wait, I'm going to change the key, Stephen said. I'll get my bodyguard to give you the key. But you didn't lock the door. Sanner pushed open the door of Stephen's villa. I'm already in. Don't go in yet. Stephen was anxious. Raymond was still in his house. Don't scare Sandnell by barging in like this. Confused, Sandnell walked into the villa. Sandnell, I remember now. I have something here. Come to my company immediately. I have something for you. Grandpa, can't you just bring it back? I'm tired. I don't want to move now. Sandnell entered the villa and went to the kitchen to get a drink. You should be back soon. Why are you free to come to my house? Don't you go to school? It's the weekend. Mom doesn't come home all day. I'm bored at home alone, so I plan to stay here for 2 days. Grandpa, do you not welcome me? No, I welcome you. Of course I welcome you. Why wouldn't I? Stephen stuttered. Then rest well and watch the movie first. There's a DVD of my new movie at home. I've already watched it in the theater. Then watch it again. I've watched it 10 times to support your movie. The DVD at home is different. What's different? It's a Blu-ray and a lot of content that wasn't edited in the theater. Oh, then I'll watch it again. Sandnell turned on the DVD player and found the DVD that Stephen mentioned. The DVD player had just played the beginning of the movie. Sandnell suddenly heard a sound outside. Sandnell turned his head and saw nothing. But just as Sandnell turned his attention back to the movie, he heard a splash from the swimming pool outside. Sandnell stood up in confusion and looked at the swimming pool through the French windows. There were ripples in the swimming pool, but there was nothing in the swimming pool. There was no one in sight either. Sandnell frowned. There was no one here, and there was nothing in the water. Why were there ripples? Sandnell walked to the front yard and looked around a few times. There was a water stain next to the pool, and the water stain left a clear trail that extended into the grass next to it. Something seemed to have crawled out of the water and hid in the grass. Sanner swallowed his saliva. Could it be that some unknown person had entered the villa? Sandnell shouted into the grass. Come out, I see you. But no one responded to Sanner. Sandnell shouted again. If you don't come out, I'll call the police. Still there was no movement. Sandnell gathered his courage and rushed to the edge of the grass, pulling it open. There was nothing inside. It was empty. Sandnell heaved a long sigh of relief. Suddenly, Sandnell felt a chill on the back of her neck. It was like a cold wind blowing on the back of her neck. Sandnell turned his head, but he saw a ferocious face. Snake. A super big snake. The huge snake's head was facing Sandnell, less than 10 centimeters away from her face. Their eyes met, and then Sandnell fell backward and fainted. Not long after, Stephen came running back in a hurry. Seeing Raymond and Sandnell lying on the ground, he hurried over. Raymond, what did you do to Sandnell? Raymond spat a mouthful of saliva onto Stephen's body, then turned around and dove into the bushes. Stephen wiped away Raymond's saliva and hurriedly picked up Sandnell. Sandnell was only unconscious, not injured. Obviously, he had misunderstood Raymond just now. Stephen had misunderstood Raymond because he was too anxious. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.